The requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being broadcast at a later date over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel. If you'd like to join us, the Zoom link is in the agenda. And the agenda lists all topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by open meeting law. So the first thing we're going to do, I think, is Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. And the next thing we have is public comment. Is there any comment from the public? Liz, is there anybody online?
No,
All right.
that's what I was looking.
Is there any comment from a committee member?
I just want to say welcome to our 3 new members, and thank you for stepping up to volunteer. That is very appreciated. So welcome, and thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
One thing before we keep going, I just want to check. Everybody has been sworn in?
Yes.
Perfect. And then it says chair's report. We have no chair as of right now, so we're skipping that. Student representatives report. We have no student. Would you like to be student representative? Skipping that. Want to review and approve the minutes from the previous session. This will be the session from March 5th, 2025, and March 12th, 2025. Laura, have you had a chance to?
I did read them. They were very long.
Yes.
Motion to approve the minutes of 3/5/25 and 3/12/25.
Can we do that? We will not have enough people to vote.
We will not have enough people to vote, because typically we don't have turnover of
Of the
3.
yeah.
I think they just abstain and then we vote and then it passes.
All right, that's fine.
I'm in favor.
All right. I'll second Laura's motion. And then I think everybody who wasn't here just has to abstain.
Yeah,
Yeah, so typically, if you're not here for the minutes, then.
For the meeting.
For the meeting that the minutes are covering, you abstain. I don't think that's practice, so that's just what we typically do, but that's generally what we do.
Okay.
All right, so
Abstain.
I'll vote in favor of accepting the minutes. The motion carries, the minutes are hereby accepted. The next thing that we're gonna do is review and approve line item transfers and warrants and donations. So I just wanted to because when I was new, I didn't know what this meant. A line item transfer is when you're moving something from one part of the budget to another. And oftentimes, this part of municipal government has significant line item transfers because we are always scrambling to find cash. So for example, if we had budgeted for a teaching position and that person went out on FMLA, and then we had a substitute, but for reasons related to how the FMLA was taken, we didn't have to pay the person their full salary, we would have some money left over in that line item budget, and we could move it to another item to pay for it or to cover a previously incurred debt. Dr. Gilson, is that an accurate summary of how that works? Okay,
Can I add real quick?
sure.
It's kind of normal for schools to do this in municipal government because they're students with changing needs, and we adjust to those changing needs too. But the line item transfers let us as a school committee know when money is changing and what wasn't enough to cover it or what the changing needs are.
The other thing that I found useful is that the line items, you can track how, if you see them year over year, you can see where we have perennial shortfalls and where we have to constantly move money. So it's it's sort of like throwing grass up into the wind and see which way it's blowing about we need money here or we have extra money here. I don't think we ever have extra money. We just have unused money that was not spent for something that we had planned on allocating. All right, Dr. Gilson, do you want to present any?
There are
no.
Perfect, let's go. Do we have any donations?
We do not.
Do we have any warrant items?
Yes.
We
All
don't
right.
vote on those.
Sorry, one second.
The warrants from May 6th through May 16th of 2025 total $130,589.17.
We don't vote on those,
We
but typically the chair of the board will go, of the school committee will go and sign them in person in Liz's office. Although I did some.
So those are also money transfers?
Those
No,
are
bills that.
the bills, basically.
bills, okay.
It's the outgoing money that we're expending.
That's fine, I just wanted to understand.
It's basically like who's signing the check.
Yep.
All right, superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to all of our new members. Just another reminder that our PTO cruise night that was scheduled for this evening is postponed until May 28th, next week. I had a question last meeting relative to how many transportation forms we received this year by the deadline, and the number is 1,006, which is down from about 1,450 last year. Kindergarten screening will be upcoming the week of June 2nd. Spring concerts, the middle high school concerts will be on May 29th. 5:30 will be the chorus, and 7 p.m. will be the band. Senior events are fast approaching. Last day for seniors is June 4th. That's also the day for motorcade. That's at 9:35 a.m. Senior awards night will be June 5th, and graduation will be June 7th. Our 8th grade is currently on their annual trip to Washington, D.C. Some other calendar reminders. June 4th will be the next regular scheduled meeting of the school committee. That will be 6:30 p.m., hybrid from Town Hall. And we will hold our annual retiree reception at 6 p.m., just ahead of that meeting, also at Town Hall. June 18th is our last scheduled meeting for FY25. That will be 6:30 p.m., hybrid from the middle high school in this room. And a reminder that May 26th is Memorial Day. All schools and offices will be closed as we observe the holiday. And lastly, just a word about the bus accident from yesterday. I just want to give special thanks to all the folks who had to coordinate around that incident. I was not in the office as I was out on bereavement. However, Dr. Susan Gilson and Juliana Hanscom, both central office administrators, as well as our SRO, Brad McNamara, Chief Sullivan from the fire department, Sandra Martin from D-Bus, and of course Liz Peterson with all the outgoing communications to everyone. There was a lot of coordination back and forth between a lot of individuals, but it could have been a lot worse. So congratulations to the bus driver for handling that bus in a way that kept all of the kids safe, kept the bus on the road. It was an incredible job that she did. So again, just credit goes to all of those who coordinated around that incident yesterday. Thank you all. I'll turn it over to Mr. Scolrini.
Next thing is new business. We have committee reorganization. And so we are electing officers and appointments of subcommittee members. So the positions that are available are chair, vice chair, and secretary. And I think we have to do this because we have no chair. I think you have to do this.
So I will look for nominations for the chair. And then once we have a voted chair, I will turn the rest of the reorg over to the chair.
Okay.
So I'll take nominations for the chair.
I nominate Anthony Scolbrini.
Chair? I second.
I'll say, I'm happy to do it if you guys want to.
Third?
All right, sounds good.
Any other nominations? Any discussion? Then we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Yap?
Aye.
Mrs. Gilman?
Aye.
Mrs. Young? Aye. Mrs. Brzezowski?
Yes.
And Mr. Schoenbring?
I abstain.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I will turn it over to you.
All right.
Now we have a chair.
Yay, now we have a chair. If I could just take 1 second to just do a chair's report and say that I am super glad that everybody who is here is here. And one of the things that I learned on school committee is everybody brings something different to the table, and everybody brings something that matters. When Peter joined and when Laura joined, they brought real and different skill sets to the job, and it made us better. And I think that one of the things that we do that maybe not every committee in town does is that we work with comity and respectfulness. And I think that we're going to do that going forward. And as I've said to many people, it's not what you believe, it's how you believe it. And if we're all going to be respectful, then I think this is going to work. So thanks for coming. Does anybody have a nomination for vice chair? And I have one. I would nominate Laura Brzezowski.
I second.
Third.
You want to do a roll call vote?
Sure.
Mr. Yap?
Aye.
Ms. Gilman?
Yes.
Ms. Young?
I'll
Laura?
abstain.
And I'll vote for Laura. Who wants to be treasurer, or secretary, not treasurer, secretary?
Clerk,
Oh, is it clerk?
what do you have to do?
So officially, the only obligation of the clerk or secretary is to take notes when we are in executive session, because there's no one else allowed in executive session. However, I have been taking notes since the first day I was on, so like, I'm happy to keep doing it, but just to have somebody as the secretary. Does anybody want to do it?
I mean,
Not a great note taker, I'll tell you that.
It's super low.
I'm happy to do it if you guys want me to, but I'm not.
I nominate Mandy Gilman.
I nominate Mandy Gilman.
I'll accept that.
Okay. Mr. Yap,
Yes.
Ms. Gilman,
I'll abstain.
Ms. Young,
Yeah.
Ms. Brzezowski,
Yes, I take.
and yes for myself. All right, so we now have all of the positions filled. We have a bunch of subcommittees, and the way that the subcommittees work, and this is something we can talk about whether we want to change how they work, is that so long as the subcommittee does not have more than 3 members, they will meet, and the meetings will be posted, but they can do like small tasks. Like the one that I'm on is the policy subcommittee. It's Laura, Liz, Dr. Burnham, and I, and then usually somebody from the school will come in. Like we're doing curriculum stuff, it's usually the director of curriculum and learning. If we're doing computer stuff, Jordan or Emily will come in and they'll talk to us about those policies. Sometimes we'll have people from the public come in. But the idea is that you'll have like a specific area in which you're gonna work, and then you come back to the committee as a whole and present recommendations. So one of the things we're gonna consider is the bus policy. And that was something that we've worked on many, many, many times. And that was done in subcommittee. And the key with the subcommittees is they have a limited jurisdiction and they do not have more than 2 members of the committee. Because if there are more than 2 members of the committee, it is a violation of open meeting law. So we gotta do everything by the book, but the subcommittees help people get a lot of stuff done. So,
And then the subcommittees bring things.
correct, bring them back here.
To the larger school committee, and then we take a vote on that action. So it's kind of how some work gets done.
So let's talk about the subcommittees. So I enjoy being on policy subcommittee. It is super fun for me because I'm a nerd. But if somebody else wants to be on subcommittee, I'm happy to step down and let them take that position. I will tell you, subcommittee is one where you do more work than the other committees, I think that, is that fair? I mean, it's kind of busy.
I would prefer prefer you stayed on it
Okay.
because of the legal aspect of
Okay.
it, because I think you save us a lot of money,
All right.
because you know what words to use, like the
Yeah.
whole shall, will,
Okay.
should. And I think we're getting a lot of free labor out of you.
He's not practicing law, he just
I-
Has a very large
Not gonna stay on, just do it.
amount of knowledge.
All right, I'm fine to stay on. Do you want to stay on?
I don't mind staying on, because
Okay.
it's generally that one meets during the day when
Yeah.
Dr. Burnham and Liz are available, so that works for me, the item on the street working for me.
Do we have a list of other subcommittees we need to take care of?
Yeah, they're all, they're on the next page there, aren't they?
Yeah, you need to assign your official voting delegate, which is typically the chair, and that's the voting delegate for MASC.
Okay, we should write these down and then we can just vote on them.
There is a list on the Google
Yeah,
Drive.
there's a, it's on,
Oh.
it's been,
I found it. It says NB Action A, Election of Officers.
it's the second page after the. But you should probably remain our, or become our voting delegate.
That's
Not
fine.
that one.
I will voice my displeasure with
It's at the
everything,
beginning.
everything
It's
that
up at
Matt
the top.
here.
Sort by,
So for those who don't know, MASC is the statewide organization of school committees, so.
It's NB Action A, Election of Officers and Appointments.
Oh, got it. So the voting delegate to MASC, I will do that. The legislative representative, I know that's typically the chair, but I think that we need to talk about something.
I think there might be somebody who's better suited. to
Yes. Mandy, would you want to be the legislative delegate, given that you have worked in the actual legislature?
Yes, if everyone is comfortable with that.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, we'll be representing you, it won't just be my own
Yeah.
opinion, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that makes sense to deviate from tradition. The spokesperson for the school board has always been the chair,
I think that makes sense.
and 99% of this is just writing emails back to people. And it's a lot of emails.
We tend not to, the spokesperson speaks for the committee, so we're gonna get emails in, and then typically the chair is the one to respond.
Yeah, the
Uh,
spokesperson is the superintendent, so that would be
Yeah.
Dr. Fortuna.
So, yeah, when we get emails,
Those are
either the
the-
chair or the superintendent responds, and that way there's not 5 people saying 5 different things back, and we're speaking as one voice.
The next thing that we gotta figure out is some policy. Administrators in advisory capacity, that's already done. Okay, sick leave bank. So part of the collective bargaining agreement for, is it everybody has it now? So
Most groups, yeah.
all of the unions have a sick bank leave group, and they will receive applications to the sick bank leave. Basically, if somebody's gone over the amount of time they have allotted to them and others have donated, then they can use it. And there is usually a committee member that goes to that.
I
If,
believe it's 2 now, didn't we change it so it's 2?
it's usually one person on the committee and then one administrator.
We changed it, so
Oh.
one administrator was not,
Okay,
so the HR person was not the one going.
oh, that makes sense.
Remember, we voted on that,
Okay.
we were at town hall, it was like 2 months ago.
Okay, so Emily, can I would like to make a case that you would be good at this because you are an actual teacher. And as the only actual teacher on the board.
Do they know when they meet and how often?
Very rarely.
Very rarely.
I think they met once
And
or
each
twice
time-
last year and not.
Each time we have met this year, it's been by Zoom. By,
Is it during the day, in the evening?
it can be whenever all the members are available. It can
Friday
be
through Thursday.
daytime, afternoon, evening.
It's when you're
Okay, 'cause I'm available at
free. It could be. Yeah.
Does that work?
5. As long as that's okay.
I mean,
Sounds good to me.
they make it work for you,
Okay.
so.
Do we need a second member,
I mean, we can.
or do we want to appoint an administrator? That's dead, because before it was because Dr. Gilson was our HR person as well.
Okay, so I have a suggestion, and I don't know if this is gonna work, and you obviously don't have to do this if you don't want to, but would you be willing to do it, Liz?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm there anyway, so, yeah.
Oh, do you go to them anyways?
Yes.
To go,
Not to
well,
sick bank.
no, not to
No,
the
no,
sick
no,
bay,
but-
but yeah.
That's not,
Sure.
That's usually.
that's not
our
too much to add on. to.
No, because it's not, it's only a few times a year, if that,
Exactly.
usually. Yeah,
Does that work?
yeah.
You sure?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm positive.
Are we notified?
Are you
Through email when
Yeah.
it comes up? Okay.
Are you guys okay with that?
Yes.
Perfect.
I'm happy with
Yeah.
that.
So the next one that we have to fill, there are two that we don't fill, but the next one that we fill is the representative to finance committee. I will say this, one of the goals that we talked to Dr. Fortuna about was to have better working relationships with finance committee. And one of the things that I think that we need to really strive for, at least in the first part of the next school year, is to have a user manipulable, public-facing version of the budget. We are going to have a lot of budget fights, and they are going to be bad. There is not enough money to go around, and we need to have buy-in from everybody on the planet that our budget is in good shape, it is correctly stated, and it is transparent and accessible to people. And part of that means that we're gonna need to work really closely with FinCom. I think that Chris Menard, who is the chair of FinCom, and Anna Lockwood have done a lot of work in going through the school's budget, and I think that work is incredibly important. And I wanna make sure that we are doing whatever we can to help them out. They're essentially the people that everybody looks to in town meeting to say, does this make dollars and cents? And we need them to be on board, and we need to work in lockstep with them. So last time it was Carol, and Carol had like the Carol vibe, where she was like the wisest person in town. So who wants to be the wisest person in town now that Carol has stepped from the school committee?
It's still
I
gonna
could-
be,
I can take that.
All right, that sounds good.
okay, oh, so we should,
Used to
so
finance.
finance committee meets on,
They meet on different times.
yeah.
Are you okay with going to, like, that means there will be quite a few weeks, especially during budget season, where you have at least two full meetings a week.
That's at night though, right?
Yep,
Yeah,
was
I
at
mean,
night.
Yeah, I mean, if it's at night, it's not.
okay, all right, that works.
Yeah, we should also talk about when they meet and how much of a time commitment it is.
When do they start, what's budget season?
They do not stop now.
So budget season is,
January.
It amps up in January, and then February is very busy.
And March,
Yeah, February and
Okay.
March are just,
yeah,
but not all the
that's-
stuff they do is school-related, so.
That's perfect, you know.
Okay.
I mean, I sometimes I have to travel, so
All right,
if I'm not, I mean.
if you're traveling and you need somebody, I'll cover for
Yeah,
you.
Okay.
Yeah, one of us.
Yeah,
can-
we've done that before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if, like, if you can email the chair.
That's the time of the year for work that we do a lot of area meetings outside of.
Okay. Okay, so there is something called the Finance Committee Appointment Committee. Almost never does this happen, but whoever wants to do that. I mean, when was the last time they met? I mean, it was like,
It was last year.
Last year.
yeah, but it wasn't like they met like 50 times.
So it's, they only meet when there's, it's the committee that appoints people to the finance committee. So they only meet when there's someone to appoint to the finance committee. So it's not a very often meeting.
Oh, it makes sense if I'm talking to the
Yeah.
finance.
That works.
I like
That was
that.
fun.
Yep. Capital Planning Committee, I think, do we have an offer from Peter to continue doing that?
You do.
So unless somebody thinks this is a bad idea, Peter Beardmore has generously volunteered to continue doing the capital planning committee appointment for school board, even though he's no longer on school board. So he knows the capital planning process better than most, and I think he has a really good handle on what we need. So unless there's an objection, I think that,
He was on a 3-year part too. He was
Oh, yeah,
he was
yeah.
appointed for a 3-year
Yeah.
term.
yeah,
And the charter doesn't allow for us to remove him.
correct.
He will, I mean, he's not gonna put up a fight, but just, it makes things easier.
Yeah, I mean, that's, makes sense if he
That's
knows
fine.
what he's doing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think at some point it would be nice if we had a conversation at this level, even about what his thoughts are on that, but I'm
Yeah.
happy to have him. I think
Yeah.
He's a very knowledgeable person who's.
okay. Laura,
If I could.
Mhm.
Um, This committee
Mhm.
will have to approve a 10-year capital plan
Okay.
early in the fall.
Okay.
It's your approved plan that gets submitted to the town manager, who then submits it to the capital planning committee for consideration.
Okay.
And each fall, we typically go in November. The superintendent and the director of facilities and grounds go to the capital planning committee and present the 10-year capital plan and answer any questions that they have. So it wouldn't be that you would be trusting Mr. Beardmore to carry forward what you're looking for. You all would approve the plan that is submitted and presented to the capital plan committee.
Excellent. Just because capital planning is a huge part of, I think, what's going to happen in town the next few years and has been, so.
yeah.
But I appreciate Mr. Beardmore offering, because it's a big commitment, so.
Yeah, he's taken a lot off our plate, especially with 3 new members. Capital planning is a big commitment and it's a lot of time, and I think he was their chair, so.
George, we'll make you check his work.
Be happy to check it.
Okay. The Wellness Advisory Committee, do you want to still do that? How often do they meet?
I think it was supposed to be every other month, but then we didn't meet for the first half of the year, so it's been every month.
Oh, okay.
Typically, it's 4,
And it's
3
generally.
to 4 meetings a year.
It's at like 3:45 on an afternoon, so I don't mind holding on to that one unless someone wants to take it.
It's fine by me.
Okay.
The next one is the PTO liaison. I will tell you, this was my favorite one I did. It was wonderful, but if somebody else wants to do it, I'm happy to let them do it.
So, I mean, I will probably be attending the meetings. I did step down as the vice president of the PTO because I'm now going to be on the school committee and I don't want to overextend myself, but I'm happy to do it, but we always love having Tony.
Okay.
So
So,
whatever you would like to do is fine.
let's just keep it the way it is.
Okay.
Keep it the way it is, like have her go or have you?
Well, I'll just,
You wanna-
He'll just come and then I'll be the alternative in case
Yeah.
he can't be there.
because that one is one where they do regularly meet.
We meet once a month, so.
And they have like actual meetings with actual decisions. As opposed to the policy committee where all we do is play with words and then read them 3 times. Like magic words.
Sounds like fun.
We plan fun events is what I.
Yeah?
Lipstick
You guys are like the wedding planners of the entire school district.
All the meetings.
Sounds like a good time.
PacSal, I don't know what this is. I know what
What does it stand for?
Yeah, that's,
Parent
Parent advisor.
Parent Advisory Council supporting all learners.
supporting all learners. Okay, they changed what it meant, I feel.
They do, and in most other districts, it's called CPAC, Special Education Parent Advisory Council. But because we also include EL learners and 504 and Title I parents, we group every, that's why we count.
Okay.
So.
that's Juliana Hanscom. She
Juliana.
knows a lot and she has brief answers. Laura, do you want to keep doing this?
I can do that, or if you want, so they meet Thursdays, if you want to take that one off, they meet every month on, I can't remember which day, Thursday, I think it's the first
It's
Thursday.
usually the first Thursday of the month, and I think next year, she may not be doing the support group, so it might be like every other month.
So that's not a big time commitment.
What time is it at?
Usually 6:30. Or 6 or 6:30. I'm getting confused with this, 6
I've been there a couple times, but I don't remember.
Yes, I'm child with a disability, so.
Oh, yeah.
You want to take that one? Okay.
Okay, we do not have a school council representative. Oh, no, we do.
No, it's-
They're breaking them down by school, sorry. Lunenburg High School, does anybody have a high school student besides me? So every building has a group of parents that advise on certain policy questions. Usually it's like stuff that's happening in the school, but sometimes it'll be things where school committee asks individual buildings a question, and then the administrators will get answers from parents in this group. So traditionally, it has been if you have a student in that group. I have a student at Turkey Hill and one at the high school, so I would happily take one of those. These do meet during the day, though, like worst time possible for people that work. Just making you aware.
So
It
I
is
I have
not
a
good.
student at Turkey Hill and one at the primary. If other people want them, I'm happy to give them, but I'm also happy to do those if that's
Okay.
helpful to people.
I will have one at the middle school. Oh, that's weird. And at the primary school.
Okay. So, does anybody have anybody at the high school?
I will, but I'm unable to meet during the day.
Okay.
In any capacity as a teacher.
Yeah. I mean, I'll take the high school. We'll figure out how to make it work.
Do you want to?
Laura, since you have a middle
It's hard for me
schooler.
during the day.
That's fine, I just wanted to make sure.
So
you-
I have not actually been on the middle school one, so I'd like to be on the middle school one.
Sounds
'cause
good.
So far I've done the primary in Turkey Hill, and then eventually I'll get promoted to high school. So I would like to take the middle school one.
And then, Mandy, could you do Turkey Hill?
I'm happy to do Turkey Hill.
And then who wants to do primary school?
It's up to you, Laura. If you want to keep it, I'm fine.
I haven't done the primary school since, I don't mind doing that, or if you want
Okay.
to take that one on.
That's fine. I mean, I would be happy to do the athletic stuff if that is something. I know that we didn't get to that one yet, but.
Yeah.
When does the athletic advisory council meet?
In the evening.
Because I'd rather only be on one school one, just because, what day of the week does the primary school?
You tell me.
I don't have their schedule, so.
I bet you could ask
Because
Carla, you know, say if
I have
something.
asked all of the principals to set their school advisory council meetings for the entire year
Yep.
this summer,
Mhm.
so that you would have a slate of all dates when the school year opens.
Yeah, because Turkey Hill was on Mondays and that was getting rough. But primary school's probably on a different day of the week.
I can't say that they stick to a particular day, I don't know.
They do not. I was in the middle school one and we never met on the same day.
Oh, okay.
It was
Missed you.
challenging.
Maybe it could be a request that you make to the principal if that's something that's important to you.
All right, so we do not have somebody on primary school.
Did you want?
I mean, I'll do it, yeah. I mean,
you
I'll
can-
do the primary school.
All right,
thing.
yeah,
That's
do you mind
fine.
taking it?
No.
And then the athletic advisory council. It was Peter Beardmore. I'm happy to do it. I have at least one child that is an athlete, so.
That's fine,
I'm
we
happy
can
to
do that one
if
if
you
you'd like.
want. Lifelong learner advisory.
We have never met,
Okay,
so you'll keep it?
keep that one.
The programs that are running have been running
Yeah,
for years.
it's my
and they just
favorite committee.
There you go. There you go. The master plan steering committee, which was Carol.
I'm already on that committee, so that would be super
Excellent.
helpful if I
There
could
you
stay.
go.
Look at
Just
that.
to minimize
Yeah.
my time.
Well,
But you
feel
skip
like
your
you're-
step municipal.
You're gonna hit the ground
building
running because you know
design.
what you're doing, so that would be fantastic.
All right, so this is the one that stinks. I'm just gonna tell you because I did it and it
Oh, you
stinks.
skipped over
You
municipal
skipped, yeah, you
design.
skipped.
Oh, well, that one doesn't stink as bad.
I wanted to-
Municipal design, building design committee.
I very much wanted to.
Okay, there we go.
Is there any
No, that's fine.
Nope.
Can I ask how that differs from the capital planning committee?
municipal design, so they're the ones who were moving forward the plan for town hall, and now I don't know what's gonna happen.
Okay.
Capital planning basically assigns a rank of priorities for what projects are, and then they go over to the municipal design, building
Well,
design.
So
You
municipal.
can understand why it's a little
So
bit similar.
capital is,
Right.
capital projects are different than municipal design,
Yeah.
because capital projects happen every year, and it's the big things. But municipal design will likely involve
Only the
debt
buildings.
exclusion, and we're not gonna likely
Okay.
pay for it with capital.
Okay.
So it's different. What we need is an overarching town plan, but. that's
Capital planning will be
beyond our
like,
scope.
we're allocating money
We
for
need a
this
new
building and
police
this
car.
truck and yeah, and Hank's replacement and all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
By the way, if you'd ever like to lose an election, just oppose Hank's replacement.
I will not be.
So Budget Task Force, they may or may not reconstitute the Budget Task Force. It was an enormous amount of work. No one wanted to cooperate. And by no one, I mean the former town manager. And it did not produce anything that anybody was willing to do. However, they're going to try it again, and so they want somebody from school committee to go. I am happy to do it again, but I do not think they want me to do it again.
I would actually
I think
like to do this.
Oh, I would love it if you
If
could do that.
possible.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
I'm not sure it's going to be reconstituted. I've already talked to a few members of the select board, and they're not sure where we're going next with this, but
Right.
I personally think we need to be planning tomorrow for next year.
I agree.
So I'm happy to do that.
The last one is
Happy to
Leaf.
give it to you.
Lunenburg Education Accelerator Foundation, it's a hopefully soon 5013C grant giving organization.
So Sybil Kaufman, who's organizing Leaf, she did come to the last PTO meeting, and she let us know that because the IRS has less staff, they've been waiting for their IRS certification. They can't ask for money from businesses, I hope I'm reiterating exactly, until they get their 501c3 status. But she is hopeful that that will be soon.
Yep, so we're just in a waiting period.
And that was
right now.
you. Do you want to still do that?
I don't mind doing that. That one is also Thursday nights, which does sometimes overlap with Paxel and other things. There was one great day where it was wellness, it was everything. I can't do those. So I don't mind doing that one. It meets monthly, but if anyone else wants to do it, it's a good way to meet people and it's fun. If anyone else wanted to do it too. But
If you enjoy it.
I like giving grants. It's just fun.
Did
No.
you decide on the Lunenburg municipal design? Did someone?
Oh, I would like to do it.
You're gonna do
Okay,
the
yeah, I would like to
municipal
do
sign. Okay,
it.
and I'm
I
gonna
didn't
do
know
if there's a budget.
I have a lot of opinions. I've been going to meetings and driving
Yeah.
me nuts.
Yeah, you do that.
I've been-
There you go.
And I don't know what's gonna happen there because
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So with all the committees assigned, the next thing we have to do is we have to make motions on 4 issues that come up every year.
did we vote on the committee assignments?
Is it an action item?
It just says appointment.
We can read it as a slate and just
Okay.
vote as a slate.
All right. Can we do that?
Sure. All right, so correct me if I didn't catch any of these correctly. The official voting delegate to MASC will be Mr. Schoenbrini. Legislative representative will be Mrs. Gilman. Spokesperson will be Mr. Schoenbrini, and after July 1st, Dr. Fortuna. Policy Subcommittee will be Mrs. Brzezowski and Mr. Schoenbrini. You have all of your administrators in advisory capacity, and those include Juliana Hanscom, Dr. Deborah Bookus, a finance position to be determined, Christopher Stevens for the facilities and grounds, Nadine Lorenzen for food service, Timothy Santry at the middle high school, Carlos Squire at the primary school, Norman Yvonne at the Turkey Hill Elementary. You also have assistant principals, Rob McGrath, Karma Tusignan, Shanina Burns, Dr. Beth Ann Cormier, Michael Smith, and you will also have an athletic director, and that will also be determined. And that will be a split role between an AP and an athletic director. Your sick leave bank, Ms. Young and Ms. Peterson. Superintendent of Schools, you've appointed Dr. Jody Fortuna. Your executive board member to Keystone is always, historically has been your superintendent, that will be Dr. Jody Fortuna. Finance Committee rep, Mr. Yap. Finance Committee Appointing Committee, also Mr. Yap. Capital Planning Committee, Mr. Beardmore. Wellness Advisory Committee, Mrs. Brzezowski. PTO Liaison, Mr. Schoenbrini, with Mrs. Gilman as an alternate. Your Paxal Liaison, Mrs. Young. the student council rep to the high school, Mr. Schoolambrini, to the middle school, Mrs. Brzezowski, to Turkey Hill Elementary School, Ms. Gilman, primary school, also Mrs. Gilman, Athletic Advisory Council, Mr. Schoolambrini, Lifelong Learning Advisory, Mrs. Brzezowski, Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee, Mrs. Brzezowski, Master Planning Steering Committee, Ms. Young, Budget Task Force, Ms. Gilman, and the LEAF organization will be Mrs. Brzezowski.
Do I have a motion to accept the slate of candidates for subcommittee positions?
I make a motion to accept the slate.
Second? All right. We don't need to do a roll call vote.
I think you can do it all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
So now we have the things we have to do. Okay, these are all super silly, but I'm just gonna explain them one at a time. We need to have a motion to continue all existing policies in effect for the ensuing year. So there is a manual that has all the school policies, and we just need to make sure that they stay in effect. So do I have a motion to keep all existing policies in effect for the next year?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next thing is we need to approve the authorization of funds for student activities accounts in the following amount. Primary school is $2,000, Turkey Hill Elementary School is $2,000, middle school is $5,000, and high school is $10,000. This is just something that we always do. It's a way to give the kids money to do things like, what?
All their clubs, activities, purchases related to materials connected to those things. Sometimes advisorships for clubs, etc.
It has not changed in the entire time I've been on school committee.
It has not.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the authorization of funds for student activities in the following amounts as described?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
I think we should just change this, because we do this every year, make this a policy, but approve a waiver to allow food and beverages with lids in the LMHS auditorium for annual and special town meeting. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. School committee authorizes the superintendent and those delegated by the superintendent to pursue all grants for the next 12 months that promote the Lunenburg School District's strategy for continuous improvement. Show us the money. All in favor? Do I have a motion? Sorry. Do I have a second? And all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Done.
Great job.
Oh, that was scintillating. All right, next agenda item.
Letter to legislature.
Oh, yes. Next agenda item is the letter to the legislature. I will say that I believe this was drafted by Mandy Gilman.
Yes.
And I have read over the letter. It was in our materials. I actually talked to Mandy about the letter. This is the reason why I think Mandy should be our legislative representative. Can you just give us a little bit of background about
Yeah.
what's going on and how we're going to try to get some more money?
Yes, so Chapter 70 is the statute that sets how much money the state gives each community for their finances for their schools. And the Chapter 70 formula for many years it's not up to par. They use a foundation budget, doesn't include a lot of stuff. And so basically the funds that we're getting are not covering enough percentage of what our school needs. So there's a bill in the legislature that would put together a commission to look at the Chapter 70 formula. It also includes a state appropriation of $250,000 to get a consultant to support that. And I personally believe this is the best way to get more money. One of the ways to get more money into schools like Lunenburg. So the bill is in front of the Education Committee, and there we're looking, people can testify in person or write testimony. So I drafted a letter. I was hoping the school committee would support. The select board approved something last night as well that they're going to send in support of the bill. And the bill, hopefully getting the bill moving so that they're really in front of the legislature. Does that answer?
Yes. Does anybody have any comments on the Chapter 70 letter?
My only issue was at the bottom of the first page, it says Lunenburg does not have any commercial tax base.
Yeah, we probably could say something a little bit more. has a very little,
Yeah.
has a very
Yeah.
Small.
small, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
minimal.
fine. Minimal
Yeah.
is a good word.
I know it's like hyperbolic, but,
Yeah, that's fine.
I was like, yes, we do.
I
It's
mean, we
just
have a
tiny.
small, a
Yeah,
minimal.
and then I couldn't figure out if you meant like maybe,
Very small.
Yes, exactly.
so, yeah, I just wanted to change it to minimal or.
Absolutely. And then there was a question when I was drafting the letter about, how many positions unfortunately we had to eliminate last year. I was hoping Dr. Burnham, you could help me with that number and like the amount of the district's total permanent staff, a percentage or something to give us a little bit of color just to exactly the situation we're in.
Yes, we had those exact figures on one of our,
It doesn't have to be in this
Slide deck.
moment. If people feel
Yep,
comfortable with it,
that's
she
okay.
can send it to me and I can just
That's
Yeah.
fine.
put it
Yeah,
all
just-
together.
Can you
Good
just let us
idea.
know what the numbers are?
Yeah.
Too, exactly, because I'd like to know what we're sending out.
Yeah.
And,
and I assume we're counting just,
FTEs.
not the free cash restored
No, no.
positions.
Yeah,
the
let's not
actual
include
budget.
them. Yeah, the actual budget, exactly.
so this is Senate Bill 400. What happened to the House bill?
So-
Because there was a House bill asking for something very similar.
Yes, so in the legislature, and for the edification of the audience, I used to work in the state senate, so the way it works is people file bills on both sides. Bills go between both sides. Really, you don't have to have a Senate bill and a House bill. So, you don't actually have to do, the Senate bill has a sponsor who's very, very passionate and could be very successful in getting the bill moving. So that's why we're just talking about the Senate bill, because it's the one that is supported by a lot of organizations as well. Other, larger organizations, like, I don't want to say, I think MASAC does support it, but
MTA supports it?
yeah, some, but they're more because there are some challenges with the Chapter 70 formulas for large organizations because many of the cities are faring very well under the current formula.
Correct.
So, so there is some there's some controversy between the different types of communities. But yes, this is the bill everyone thinks the Senate is going to move on.
Because I thought the House, I did not expect the House one to just be.
So so it will have to go through the House.
Yeah.
But it would, if it goes through the Senate, then it will move to the House side to be considered.
Yeah.
But it can also be added on to another bill. It doesn't necessarily have to travel the road of this bill number. Part of this is just weighing in on the concept.
I don't mind
You
sending
know.
the letter, I don't want to get our hopes up and have us think that anything is going to change, because I don't think that the Massachusetts legislature cares to change. I sat in that house, I listened to so many students beg for more funding for regional, rural, and urban schools, and the rural one especially, and then they went and cut the rural schools' budget by half after sitting there and listening to all those kids. So I don't have.
So there is some gamesmanship about the way the House, and I agree with you, but I think this is the only way, this is not a 1-year plan. This is a
Yeah.
4 to 5 year plan, and, my kids will be older than all of our kids, but in order to continue to fund education, this is what, in my opinion, has to be done. In the interim, there is more money coming, and we will talk about that hopefully. The Senate and the House are working through their final numbers, but it does look like Lunenburg is going to get some more money. There'll be some challenges with that getting it to the schools because of the timing of the town budget and the school budget and all that kind of stuff, but I'm an eternal optimist, because
Yeah.
that is just how I have to be, and so that's,
Yeah.
my personal hope is that this committee and others, we just keep pushing.
Yeah, I don't mind sending it, I don't think we should make plans based on Chapter 70.
Yeah, no,
Anytime soon, because it's benefiting the cities where the voters are. And
I agree with that, but I also think yelling into the abyss actually does work eventually.
Yeah.
And there are over 200 communities that are really suffering, so that's a lot of communities. It's not just us.
So I have numbers for you.
Oh, excellent, thank you.
39 positions,
Yeah,
which total 28 FTEs. That's full-time equivalents, because several of the positions were part-time.
39 employees,
39 different positions.
different positions.
Equaling 28 FTEs,
Yeah,
which is 9.3% of our permanent staff.
okay.
That's,
Which is huge.
that's huge.
It's an awful number, but.
That's a big cut.
Yeah. So, with the permission of the committee, I will add that to the letter. I'll make the change about the about the
Commercial tax.
commercial tax,
And there's
commercial property.
The last paragraph has extra period in it.
Okay. And then,
That's the emphasis on.
exactly. And then, my suggestion is we send it to the chairs of the committee and CC our current representatives, so they know that we've submitted it. Tony, do you wanna send it? I'll PDF it and get it all ready. Do we have letterhead?
Yep, if you take any letter that you want to send as a school committee.
Yeah.
You can get that text to Liz. Liz will put it on
Awesome,
letterhead.
that'd be great, so I'll also just send it to Liz, and then she can send it out, or have Tony send it out, or however you guys usually do it.
As
Find some cute kids to deliver
Yeah.
it.
As doom and gloom as the picture is for chapter 70, I learned last year never to bet against Mandy Gilman.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
See how effective you are.
I know, right?
All right.
Hey, if you don't ask, they don't give it to you.
Yeah.
That's
So
true.
do we need a motion
Right.
on, there is an action item?
Okay, motion to make the changes as outlined in the legislative letter and then send it as a body.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Review operating protocols. Okay. I think this is the thing I put on.
Correct.
Okay.
So there's a copy of the existing school committee operating protocols. They have been in place for the last 6 years. They are typically reviewed annually, and there have been some minor edits made over time. But what you've got in your packet tonight is the final version that we've been working under.
So I had been working on this, like a way of redoing the operating protocols for the school committee since I got on the school committee. And I think that there's a couple of things motivating it. Number one, we spend a ton of time on things, and we are all volunteers. And taxing volunteers is challenging. Number two, our meetings are so long that we essentially have no public participation. And so when things happen, like the budget last year, and we were screaming from the mountaintops that the budget's gonna be bad, it didn't matter because we did so after, 2.5, 3 hour meetings that ended at 10:30 at night, and no one was watching. So even though we had been telling people for a year it was gonna be bad, it still came as a surprise to the town. The other thing is, I think that we do not present information clearly enough by having long meetings. And so the proposal would be to change the way that meetings work by apportioning time for certain things and to put in place suggestions for presentations. It would also be to change when the meeting starts and when the meeting ends. And then we would do work to prioritize and organize the agenda before the meeting to make them shorter and more digestible. One of the things that I'm concerned about is 6:30 is awfully early. It makes it very difficult for people, especially people with kids and jobs and all that kind of stuff to get here. If we started at 7 and ended at 8:30, it would make meetings much more digestible for the public. It might mean that we don't plow through 10 items, but I honestly don't know how much people are paying attention after item number 2 or 3. The other thing is, it's not feasible for us to have so much time spent on some of the basic items. We do a lot of the same thing every meeting, and, if we're doing regular reports, like a year ago, we had a report on the elevator every meeting, and it was like, I get it, the elevator's not working, we're doing all these things, but spending time on updates as opposed to new items or agenda items or emergencies, it just means that our meetings are really, really long. So I would like to propose a change to these, and I don't know what the change is. I have drafts of what I'd like the change to be, and I think that's in the budget, or in the agenda. But it's just, we've got to do something to make these more accessible for people and less burdensome for us. One of the things that I think we can do is, eliminate long presentations based on PowerPoint. I feel like over the years, presenters have become too reliant on PowerPoint. And instead of summarizing and using it as a visual aid, not always, but sometimes they would just read them to us. And it was maddening to watch. I think that it would be helpful if people, when presenting, had notes so that their materials were organized. Obviously, we can't mandate any of this. And then, having jargon and acronyms be explained. It took me about 2 years to figure out what an educational cohort was. And then somebody said, oh, it's just like the class of 28. And I was like, oh, I got it. So I think all of those things could be suggestions that we make to people to make the meetings more accessible. I think, like I said, we need to prioritize non-recurring, non-update presentations, and we need to stick to the roles that the charter allots to us, which is we are a board that does oversight, we do not do deliberation or investigation. I think that some of the time we could get lost in the weeds on certain things, and it was something that, like, I know that I did this a lot when we were doing the budget this year. I would ask Dr. Bookus for, peer-reviewed, empirically validated journal articles about class size or about class choice in high school and the impact on student achievement. Or if I had a question about the special education stuff, I could ask Dr. Hanscom. Or if I had something about operations, I could ask Dr. Burnham. But I think that we need to focus on providing oversight to the people that are actually doing the job and not doing the job ourselves. So the rules changes that I would propose are as follows. To use and enforce time limits. The time limits would not apply to emergency items or to the length of questions or comments. So if there's an issue on and people want to talk about it, like when we did the mask mandate, you could have as many commenters as you want, you'd just be stuck with 3 minutes each unless we voted to go over. So the way it would be is a regular topic would be 15 minutes or less, a recurring update would be 5 minutes or less, and then individual comments would be 3 minutes or less. We would factor in all of these into building the agenda. Then we would start at 7 and end no later than 8, and then we would meet at the same location. One of the things that we do is that we move back and forth. I even called Laura tonight and be like, where are we at today? One suggestion that somebody had was we do one in person and one over Zoom every month, and I'm fine with that. But have it be in the same place at the same time every week, so that, I think at least once everybody has gone to the wrong place. So I am happy to do all of these, none of these, or change any of them. I just think that we need to do something different because we are not being effective at engaging the community and informing the community and other boards in town about what the needs of the district are and how we got where we are. So I'm happy to open it up for debate.
So, I know we've talked about this before, but I understand where you're coming from, and I think there's a middle ground here that I would be happier in between strict time limits and the clock strikes 8:30 and we just get up and leave. So I think there's a middle ground between what we have been doing and this very rigid outline of how meetings should go. I think it's a little, so our employees, when they make PowerPoint presentations, they're teachers.
Yes.
And presenting is professionally what they do.
Yes.
So I think it's a little controlling for us to say you shouldn't be using PowerPoint, or if we have feedback on how they're using PowerPoint, I think we can provide feedback outside of the meeting. And I know we've talked about this before, but I rely on the PowerPoints heavily because when I see information, I take it in. You're a very verbal person, and I've seen you at meetings, you can just remember a lot. Not everyone's like that, and I find the PowerPoints useful, some of them. Also, when the decks get added to our drive before meetings, I go through them.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I have questions, and so I will follow up before the meeting to make sure that I'm prepared for the meeting. And without a slide deck, I can't do that, I'm gonna come in blind. So I understand what you're saying about the PowerPoints. I don't think we should be telling people how to present to us. But I think out of this, we could build some guidelines, like a one-page document of how we'd like it to go, but I also think it's a little too controlling for us to say, you have 15 minutes, it's gotta all be verbal, or if you have a slide, it better be just a graphic in the back. I, however, really agree with the acronyms. When I came on the school committee, we
It's
had
overwhelming.
I don't know if it was a rule, but there were no acronyms, and that made life so much easier for me because I didn't know anything coming on. And sometimes I guess, and I'm always wrong, and weirdly wrong. So I think we could have guidelines, like limit the jargon and acronyms. But on the other hand, I think it's fine to define an acronym and then continue using it.
Yeah.
So I think it's too rigid. I like the spirit of it. I would absolutely not vote on an action item to make meetings no more than 90 minutes long, because the work is the work and it needs to get done, and we're not just gonna stop because it's bedtime. We're gonna get the work done. And I also think that the meeting in two places, I understand, it's a pain in the butt, but there's also reasons for it. We used to meet at town hall because that's where Pat could record from, and when we
Sure.
had meetings in here, they weren't recorded. And they get recorded in here, but they're not live streamed for the public when we're in this room. They are only live streamed the first Wednesday of the month, and we get more participation then, and more people are watching it. Also, all of our Zoom problems have been in this room. It's much easier to use the Zoom and the audio and everything and the video recording is much better at town hall. However, we can't have all our meetings there because other committees meet on Wednesday nights. So
What do you
the
think about doing it by Zoom?
I don't think as many things get done by Zoom. I think it's better not to do it by Zoom, but that's,
Can I say a few things?
Sure.
So one thing I wonder is there a reason our agenda is always in the same order? Like some of the budget stuff, when I was watching the committee meetings,
I agree.
we should do the budget first. I don't know why
Of
we
course.
do all the line item transfers and all that kind of stuff. Not that that stuff isn't important, but if people are gonna watch the beginning of the meeting,
I
we should
agree.
talk about the important stuff at the beginning of the meeting.
Yes, that is number 5.
Okay,
That's-
I
that's
didn't,
one of-
I
that's one of
didn't
his
look at all
things.
the, yours, I skimmed it. Secondly, when I've been sitting through meetings, there's a lot of educational portions. I personally think the educational portions can happen in a lot of other places. I don't know if it includes like, we're going to have a presentation next time on X, and then like, okay, in our meeting in 2 weeks, we're gonna talk about Paxal, right? And then all of us list our questions for you at that moment, right? And then the presentation focuses entirely on the questions we have, right? That we don't get the history of Paxal for 100 years. I'm just using that as an example. I don't even know if you ever made a presentation. I'm just using it as an example, right? We don't get the, 100 slides on like Paxal and how wonderful it is. Not that I don't want to know, but in order to sort of like, okay, what are the action items? In all due respect to the people who were on the committee before, it is immensely frustrating to watch a committee have a conversation and then not make a decision.
Oh.
And that is
it's the
something you
worst.
guys just used to excel at. So
It
like,
drove me crazy.
like the idea of the elevator, I don't want to hear about the elevator until it's fixed, honestly. I mean,
Tell me when it's broken, tell me how much it costs, and tell me when it's fixed. That's it.
I think it's
Right.
useful to know about the elevator. I totally disagree on this because the elevator itself, like literally this example, knowing that the elevator is constantly broken informs future budget decisions. It informs future maintenance decisions. It has informed how I view if we ever go to build another school. The elevator discussion factors in that heavily because that's important information. And then someday we're gonna have a conversation, why do you wanna build a school that's only one floor? Because the elevator is always broken. Remember, we've talked about it at every meeting sort of
But
thing?
respectfully, we could say the elevator is broken, and then in 7 months, when the elevator is fixed, we could say the elevator is now fixed.
If the elevator is continuously broken in a school, that's a problem. Like, we should
So that could be a longer
discussing-
conversation about why the elevator wasn't fixed in 1 month. I don't really know, but to me, not to be
I mean, we
preachy,
don't
but
wanna-
my goal on the school committee is not to be a superintendent. It's
From my standpoint, being in a lot of meetings all the time,
Mhm.
we set parameters.
Yes.
It's, you have 15 minutes to make a presentation. However that presentation is made, whether it's PowerPoint, verbal, handouts, it's fine. But you get 15 minutes. Now, sometimes people will go a little bit over, a little bit under. It's okay, we're not gonna chop someone's hands off. But if somebody's extending to 25 minutes on a 15-minute presentation, we might have to say, hey, we're gonna have to move to the next article. If we say our meetings stop at 8:30, it's a guideline, like anything.
Yeah.
We set an hour for a meeting. If we run 15 extra minutes because we need to finish the discussion, I don't think anybody's gonna have a problem. Now, what we don't wanna do is come into a 7:30 meeting that has no end time, or a 7 o'clock meeting that has no end time. If we don't work on scheduling our time, we can't keep people moving in the right direction and keep people interested and give everybody an opportunity to talk. There's nothing worse than when you've got to go fifth and the first person took an hour and 15 minutes to give a presentation that could have taken 17 minutes. You do lose interest quick, when people are talking. So I do feel like having the parameters, but being, we could be a little soft on the end time if we need to be, and we could be a little forgiving on the 15 minutes. And if it's a PowerPoint presentation, let it happen, but you go over, you might find that you didn't get to finish but I think people, like when we build presentations for our meetings, I have to go through that 5, 6, 7 times, make sure I'm inside of the time frame that's been given to me. And cut out information that I don't think is valuable to the rest of the team, right? So I think that, and I think when it comes to repairs and broken elevators, the first time should be elevators broken, the second time should be when's it gonna be fixed. And that's it. And if it's not fixed on time, then we need to know why, and then we'll figure out what the answer's gonna be to that later. But to Laura, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, people should know things that keep breaking, and we need money for that, and it's unacceptable, right? But I think we can bring that up as a point of contention as well. Like, I don't understand why it takes 5 months to fix a broken elevator, and it should be unacceptable. Yeah. That's my opinion.
It's the state.
Yeah.
My
So-
feeling on it. So,
Emily, I just want to make sure everybody gets a chance. What do you think?
I was just thinking about your slide deck
Yeah.
criticism. As a teacher, I think it's important to have many different ways to present information. Not everyone's going to read them ahead of time or absorb the information just by hearing it. So I think it just needs to be accessible for lots of different people.
Okay.
But I do agree that after watching for the past few years, it does go on a little too long sometimes without a lot of outcome, especially during budget season.
Oh, man.
I feel like something's
but-
for one meeting that we just really didn't like.
Oh, no, I started writing this, when I first joined I've been working on this for 3 years. And it is, yeah.
So in the interest of action items,
Yeah, so
Is
the only
this-
3 action items on here are the proposed rule changes.
Right.
Make no meeting longer than 90 minutes starting at 7 PM, set a time limit on all presentations and comments as listed above, and then encourage compliance with suggestions. That would be it.
But encouraging compliance, if it's more than 90 minutes, if it says making meetings no more than 90 minutes long, encourage compliance.
Could
Is
it
this a
be
No, with
guideline or a law?
suggestions.
Could it be a goal?
Yeah.
A goal
It's a
to
goal.
have
It's a
our
guideline.
meetings start at 7 and end at 8:30?
Yeah.
As we all know that that's our goal, but there's going to be times when it's probably not gonna end.
Oh, yeah.
Because we know
I
there's
think, but
other
if we have
things.
like, one of the things I learned from Dr. Burnham, one of the many things I learned from Dr. Burnham, is when she said, we want this number of kids to be at or above grade level, it was a really ambitious number, and I don't think we hit the number, but we got really close. And so
But
if we
again,
have.
it's a guideline
Yeah.
of this is what we want to achieve. If we don't get it, it's okay, but we're not gonna
Yeah.
You know, we're not gonna shut off the lights.
Can I take a shot at this for next meeting?
Sure.
And come up with
Yeah, yeah.
one page, because this is 2 pages.
No, it should be one page.
It's the,
Oh, the agenda, the
I wanna
sample
take the,
agenda.
I wanna take the sample agenda
Yeah.
too, and then
Yeah, yeah.
the proposals, and make it guidelines. So if someone's coming to present to us for the first time, be like, here's how we like it,
Yeah,
you know, here's how we'd like to do things, and then also for us. But I think we should also accept our normal operating protocols and make sure that all the new members read our operating protocols, and that we stick with the old operating protocols that the committee before me developed.
I would like to make this an action item for next meeting.
Okay.
I don't want to do we meet and talk and don't decide
Okay,
anything.
can I come?
Yeah, so we're gonna take
Can I
the-
come back
sorry.
to
Sure.
you with the
Yeah.
one page?
Sure. Yeah, yeah,
I'll
yeah.
make it fit.
Yeah, I mean, it could be homework, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So, but let's make it an action item for next time,
Yeah.
so we can keep going.
Yeah, so you'll take the operating protocols, make some,
Well, I think we should accept the current operating protocols as our protocols, though.
I think we already did when we approved. Okay. Do I have a motion to continue our operating protocols as they exist for one more meeting and only one more meeting?
so moved.
Agreed.
All right.
So do you not want to use the operating protocols from before? Because
Mm.
there's things in there that isn't covered in here.
Right,
This-
but I don't, what I want to do is I want to make sure that we have an action item on for next meeting to decide something about what we talked about tonight.
Okay.
To adjust the protocols
Yes,
based on what we
so
talked
just
about.
to say, the next meeting, we'll use the old protocols, and then we will make the decision next meeting to change them in whatever way people want. But I want to make sure that we have an expiration date for the current protocols, and it is next meeting, so we can keep going.
Okay.
All right. So I have do I have a motion, do I have a second?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
If I could just offer a few thoughts.
Yeah.
Relative to some of the comments. This committee, with the new superintendent will come in with a plan for continuous improvement,
Yeah.
like we've been using. And each fall, that comes back, it's revised, it's updated, and this committee approves that. So the reason for some of the educational stuff that comes to your meeting is because you have authorized that this is the work that this district should be doing. And those presentations or information that come forward connect to showing you that progress is being made on the work that you authorized should be the priority work for the district. It's one of the big important jobs that you do. The other piece of having that information in the context of meetings, one is information for the public. Two, that provides artifacts for you, evidence that you will need to rely on when you evaluate the superintendent, which is a beastly task.
Oh, it's awful.
And for you to get artifacts either digitally or in a binder to go through individually, it's cumbersome. If you can see some of the evidence in the context of your meetings, then it alleviates some of the tasks that you have when you evaluate the superintendent.
Which is also open and transparent.
Yes.
Governance, so that
Yes.
we show we're doing our job and the public sees also what the superintendent is accomplishing.
I would say that the new committee will set the tone for what kinds of other information they want to see. The previous committee had a lot of interest in the facility. So there was a monthly facilities update report. That can be continued, it's just a report. It does not have to be reported, it can be just a report, a written
Like a
report.
written-
Yeah.
That
Sounds
you
good.
have, you see, you move on.
Yep.
Or not. And that can be done with a lot of different things where you just receive a report and there's no conversation in the meetings
That would
at
be
all.
Yes.
And you just accept the report, and you can move on, and all those documents are public. So there has been reason and purpose for
Yeah.
different things over time, but this committee will be able to set the direction for what kinds of information you want or need to see.
Do you think that the 15-minute time limit on individual presentations is sufficient? So like, if you look at the way that the sample agenda was set up, there are certain things that are unbounded by a time limit. So that if it's like an emergency, so budget, curriculum, test scores, emergency items, and they will have no limit. Regular presentations would have 15 minutes, recurring updates no more than 5 minutes. All other topics or individual comments would be 3 minutes. Do you think 15 minutes is enough?
Yeah, and I think that 15 minutes is enough for most of the information that we would bring forward in a presentation, other than
Budget
the budget.
and the curriculum
Because
stuff.
typically the first iteration of the budget, there's a lot of data that gives you the background on what's happening in special education, what's going on with mental health, what's going on with academics and reading and math and so on and so forth. That said, it doesn't have to be done in a slide deck. It could be in a written budget report. I know that there are many districts where that is it, and it's a 200-page written report that the school committee gets, and
Yeah,
it's posted on the website.
And I, listening to what you're saying, I think somebody's presenting, they're presenting an overview, and they can access the report. There's information to access the report.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give you an overview of what this budget looks like. This is gonna take, tonight, we're gonna extend that, our 15-minute rule to 25, because it's an important subject. And then whoever's presenting does that. And I believe that that gives the public enough information and others enough information to say, okay, I get this, or I want to dig deeper in, I'm going to go in, I'm going to read that 200-page report when I have my opportunity, and I have an opportunity to raise my hand at any, through email or through the next meeting or whatever it might be. So I still think.
Yeah.
I think as long as you do it early enough,
Yeah.
you can request a different format for the budget.
I mean, I don't mind the PowerPoint. It's just, I don't mind a million PowerPoint slides. I just don't think we have to talk about every one of them, I guess, is sort of my feedback, right? Like, but then again, we're gonna have a new superintendent, so it's gonna be a totally different ballgame than starting in July. I mean, she'll have different, not priorities, but different style, so.
Sure. But I think it's important that if you, as a committee, are seeking a certain format,
Yeah.
that you should voice that early.
To her.
Because even if I were staying, the budget could be done and presented in an entirely different way
Yeah.
next year,
Mhm.
based on the request of the committee.
Yeah, and I think my personal opinion is we have to sell our needs to the town and sell our needs to the citizens, and so that is part of, Laura, it's not that I don't want the depth, just for you to know, it's that I feel like we need to, maybe sell's not the right word, but we need people to understand things in sizable, in digestible.
Yep.
Um,
But part of the reason I like.
Do you know what I mean? Digestible portions, because even if you and I sit here for 4 hours and listen,
Yeah.
the people that we need engaged, right, are not gonna do that, right? Even if that's the people that we are sort of presenting our
The
needs to.
presentation has to be in layman's terms, and everything else is written
Right.
in the way it needs to be. But if people can understand where that's going, I think it's gonna be much more effective than trying to read through a massive.
But the interesting thing is that we get different feedback from the finance committee relative
Yes.
to how they want the information.
Yeah.
They
That's
don't
fine.
want it in layman's terms.
Yeah,
They
that's
want to
fine.
see it like you're an accountant,
Yeah.
presenting a budget. So it's
I
a
can
challenge when you've got
understand
different
that.
Yeah.
audiences looking for different.
I can understand, but that can be presented to the finance committee in a different style or presentation.
We also need to remember, other boards watch our meetings to get information. So I'm not arguing for the 4, 5, or 6 hour meetings. I'm arguing that some things do need to be said over and over, because not everyone watches every meeting. So if there is an issue coming up and we're gonna be talking about the budget, we're gonna have to talk about this every time. There might be 30 seconds on it, just stand up and go, we're broke, and then that's it. But some things do have to be said over and over again, because people tend to take it in better if you say it every meeting. I don't love that, but that's what it is. And like for the budget, I think the verbal report is important, like that we do that.
So one thing that I will point out is, if we have time limits on presentations, even if we do not enforce them rigidly, and I think that George, your suggestion is right, that if they're at like 15 minutes and 37 seconds. It's not like, get out. But one thing that I will do, and we put those time limits in the agenda, if somebody can't make our meeting at 7, they can get a reasonable approximation of when they should tune in to hear the parts that are relevant to them. If we don't do that, I remember when we did the mask mandate one, and there were 175 comments, and we didn't start until 2.5 hours in, and I was like, this is gonna kill people. And we never got to the end.
But you have to let people speak.
Oh, no, what I'm saying is, if we don't have time limits, then people won't know when to tune in. And so we rank things and change the way in which they go on the agenda to prioritize the high participation items. And we have time limits laid out in the agenda. It will give people the ability to say, I can tune in at this time and I can participate. As opposed to, I sit through a 3.5 hour session where none of this is relevant to me, only to start talking about what I want to start talking about at 10:30.
Agreed.
Right.
Agreed.
So you have an agenda that lists what's gonna happen, and we know this person's presentation is 15, this might be 17, that's okay.
Yeah.
But then, people could say, okay, there's 8 presentations, that's a lot of time, right? 8
Yep.
times 15 is gonna be a lot, it's gonna push us over our 90 minutes.
Yeah.
But that's gonna be a little bit longer meeting that night, and we need to accommodate these
Yeah.
presentations.
I think I would
right?
just prefer if it was guidelines and not like,
It's a guideline.
and that way the presenters know what to do. They know, okay, I gotta keep this under 15. But if, this takes 20 to explain, don't have to stress about it. It takes 20 to explain. I think I'd prefer if it was kind of guidelines.
But here's the thing, if we say they're guidelines, then that gives us less discretion. If we say they're rules, we can always say, we're gonna lift it if you're almost done. But I wanna make sure that we stick people to this. I mean, I'm just gonna say this. If you go anywhere, whether you're in the legislature, when all three, Mandy, Laura and I talk, or you're in
Oh,
a
you
court,
have to cut us off.
there is a time limit. Adults function based on time limits,
They do.
and we gotta just do that. And I know it's not fun, and I know if we had like an infinite amount of resources, where you could sit around and pontificate and debate all day, but I don't think that people enjoy that.
Okay, so I'm gonna move then.
Sure.
So we don't talk about it
Yes.
now.
Yeah,
I think we went over the time.
I do. I think we did.
I was considering cutting you off. I would like to move to accept the current operating,
Oh, we already did that.
we did this?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're good, so we don't even need to,
No,
yeah.
So next time we'll move to,
So we'll have a draft. So Laura's gonna take a look
I'd like
at
to
it.
work on a draft to get it, just one page for presenters, and us. And then I think it'll help with forming the agenda. And then we can talk about it.
and anybody else who has suggestions, bring them, because like, we just wanna make this work. It doesn't have to be any one person's plan, and it doesn't have to be even these suggestions. But whatever we do, we need to increase engagement.
Yes, and so one of the things I don't think we have to discuss in this moment, I would love Kate's opinion on, Dr. Burnham's opinion on this at some point, is sort of when members of the committee have questions for the school district. I know it's not appropriate to go, beyond, people were going through the chair or whatever, but sometimes questions that come up in the meeting might be things that really don't need to be discussed in the whole meeting, right? So is there, I think, some protocol for you, for the superintendent to tell the committee, like the bus thing, you sent us an email, so that was fine, but that might be something that you did a great job, but that might be something I'd be like, hey, what happened with the bus today, right?
That's in the operating.
Any questions that you have?
Yeah,
Whether they're for me directly or if they're for special ed, everything should go through the
Yeah.
superintendent.
but it doesn't have to go through the chair, right?
I think it's good protocol to at least CC the chair,
Okay.
so that the chair is familiar with the questions and the
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
It's more volume, it's not that I wanna talk to you about things that I don't want the chair to know about, it's more just like,
A lot of.
well, you
So
have a
stuff should
question,
get
but
also sent to the chair, so
Yeah.
the chair knows what's being asked, and then if, say, 3 of us have the same question or same
Right.
concern, the chair should know about it because we can't talk about it outside a meeting. But the chair should be aware and can see this is going to be an issue, we need to talk about this next meeting, let's add it to the agenda.
yes, so
Yeah.
that would be my suggestion, honestly, is within the confines of the open meeting law, which I know we have to take a class on and read, but in the confines of the open meeting law, communicating outside of the meetings in sharing information and stuff, I think is important, because that can help make these meetings less.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which is why oftentimes if there's information that the chair thinks would be important for all members to have, I
just send it out.
am asked to send it out to everyone. Sometimes I've gotten questions from different individual members, but think that the question and the information was important enough that it might be valuable for all members to have. So I would provide that response and include all the members on the committee so that they know this is the question, this is the information.
That makes
So,
sense.
Yep.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mandy, so you're aware, the open meeting law is terrible.
Yes.
It does not work. It actually makes meetings longer and less accessible.
Yeah, and it doesn't apply to the state legislator that passed it.
Yes.
They don't have to do open meeting laws.
So,
There's a lot of that goes on.
yeah, what ends up happening is the only thing that we can talk about as a group are agenda items, not the agenda items themselves, but things on
What
the
to-
agenda. Yeah, what to put on the agenda. Otherwise, questions will go
To Kate.
to Kate, and then if there is
CC
something that
Cody.
needs to go to everybody, Kate will send it out, because that will not buy a bit. But then we can't respond to each other.
So, and
Okay.
since you guys haven't taken the
Stupid.
open meeting law training yet, well, you did for, but, don't hit reply all
Oh,
on
yeah,
email.
I made that mistake.
Do not hit reply all, because then we're discussing things. So things are gonna come through Kate, or occasionally you'll get an email that says, do not reply all, just,
Yeah.
so, don't reply all, and we can't talk about stuff outside of me, which is one of the reasons meetings do take long. The only time we can have these discussions in a group is in the meeting. I don't like open meeting law, but it's the law, so we're gonna follow it. And it does make sense.
All right, so, next item is the, school committee meeting calendar for 25-26.
The meeting dates follow your policy of the first Wednesday and third Wednesday, except for when that Wednesday may fall on a school vacation week. And then there's an off-cycle meeting, but it's highlighted and noted that it's off-cycle. And then the topics are just a general guideline for roundabout when these routine things are brought forward and discussed with the committee. It's not hard and fast. Sometimes they could be moved to a meeting earlier or a meeting later, but it just gives you a general sense of some of the very routine things that come through.
The one thing I didn't comment on is us meeting at the same place. I would love that. I think it's dumb that we move around.
Yeah, Tony brought that up.
Yeah,
I think
I
we
think it
should-
confuses people.
Yeah, just have it in one place and then do the other one by Zoom, or do it.
So maybe we can talk about it next week when we're finalizing
Yeah.
everything, but or 2 weeks.
It's too much.
So it's every other week, right?
Yeah, the
Meeting
first,
basically?
the
The first
first
Wednesday
Wednesday
is
of the
always
month,
at
we're at
town
town
hall.
hall.
And the second meeting
Or
on
any
the
other.
third Wednesday typically is always in this room.
So if we reach a time limit on a meeting and we haven't been able to finish, we can always carry things forward to the next one.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta wait 2 weeks and it slows things down.
Yeah.
And then whatever happens the next week is gonna get pushed back. Stuff's not gonna get done.
One thing I will say is this building has a hard and fast time limit. There will be a point where the custodian comes and says, you are closing the building. And it's just, we need to figure out a way to make that not happen, and I would prefer to have meetings in one place, just so people can follow us around. If we're trying to increase engagement, moving from place to place is not the way to do that.
I mean, most people are engaging on Zoom anyways,
That's true.
but we've had Zoom issues in here. We have speaker issues sometimes and
Yeah.
connection issues, so people can't hear us.
Is it from the internet in here?
No, it's this wireless mic sometimes.
Oh, wireless.
Don't hook in.
We did have somebody crash our Zoom once,
Do you wanna go
Oh, yeah?
grab the one?
in a really profane way.
Oh, that sounds like,
So I don't mind meeting at town hall. I don't think, I've never gone to the wrong meeting place yet. I think maybe once, but it's the first Wednesday of the month, but we can't use that other times because there are other committees. meeting, and this gives us flexibility for special meetings.
So why don't we put it on our list for the new superintendent, just to see if we can talk about
Yeah,
what she suggests?
yeah, or doing, like, again, I think the idea
I mean,
of
we
one
could
in
do one
person,
on
one on Zoom. And
I would
everybody-
go somewhere because my kids will be on with me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But
Zoom
that's-
is hard for me.
That's fine.
I don't have a place where children can't find me. Same. Like, I'm gonna be
Yeah, that's
doing it
definitely
from a locked bathroom.
Right.
Yeah.
My kids will be in their
And they'll
underwear.
still knock on the door,
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's hard.
My grandson breaks down the door and wants to come in.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on, right?
Did everybody have a chance to look at the school committee meeting calendar for 25-26?
Can I offer some suggestions?
Sure.
I think we should add on in August that we need to start talking, or I'm not sure when, talking about an FY '27 override. Because I don't want to rely on the town side of things to get that done. So, and I'll be fully honest, if I, as a citizen, will probably end up doing an FY '27 override for November special town meeting. Probably won't end up getting put on the ballot, but might as well try. But I would like us as a committee, and we can talk about it as an action item later, I guess. I would like us as a committee to push for an FY '27 override, whether it's town comprehensive or school, only because the town has decided not to act quickly. Because to us, we understand the time constraints that we're under, and I'm not sure it's understood on all ends, or matters on all ends, but it does matter to us. So for backstory, when we do an override in May, our staff have already been told they're being laid off, potentially if an override doesn't pass. It's very stressful for our staff. It keeps happening. This year, if we do this in May, it's gonna be the third year in a row that staff have been worried about their jobs and stressed. It's killing morale. It's hurting the staff. It's harmful. We have to stop doing it. We're losing good teachers, because why would they work here when they can work for a school district that isn't gonna threaten their jobs and every year? And I think it is absolutely ridiculous that we might be subjecting our staff to a third year of this. So if we go for an FY '27 override in November at special town meeting, there will already be an election, there will already be a special town meeting scheduled, so we don't have to schedule anything sooner, and we would know ahead of time what the budget is gonna be while we're developing the budget if an override passes. We would already know. And if it doesn't pass, then we do the budget and we can go back and try again, and it gives us 2 shots at it next year. But in order to do that, we need to start talking about it soon. I'm not actually sure what the timeline on that would be, but I'm thinking like August, because we're gonna need to let the financial director and the new superintendent, get a little settled. But I would like to add that to the calendar. I don't know how other people feel about that,
I
though.
agree with you.
Do
I
we,
think that's a good idea.
do we want to reach out to the other 2 boards to see what their position would be?
Yes.
I mean, even if we don't, I think we need to get their position before we decide if we put it on in August. Because if
Okay.
they're like, sounds great, we'll do
The
it.
general impression is that's not enough time.
So I think that we should, my opinion is we should reach out to the town manager and the chairs of both of the other boards. I don't know how we formally do that, whether we put it in
I'll do it right
writing,
now.
or the chairman, says something and says, the group we would like to discuss as a school committee looking at a fall override.
We could do a joint meeting, or like a half hour meeting.
And we want them, but do they have to reply to us and let us know what they think?
I'm just going to send them an email.
Yes,
Yeah, because
Yeah, I think that's a good idea to get buy-in from the other.
committees.
Right.
Yeah.
If that's the route we need to go in.
I think we're gonna be told it's not enough time, but on the other hand, they didn't hear the budget task force report until March, and town meeting's in May. So
So I'm happy as the new budget task force committee appointee. I could go to the next select board meeting and ask them sort of what they're thinking. My understanding is that they aren't thinking there's going to be budget task force there.
It's just gonna be you. You
The
are
whole-
the budget task force. It's
That'd
just
be
gonna
great. You know I'm not very great with spreadsheets. I'm gonna need some of your help anymore. But, yeah, I think we need to do something about it right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Why wait, right?
we cannot keep doing this to our staff, because we as a school committee are the employer of record. We can't keep doing this. We have to watch out for our people, and this is getting ridiculous, and we cut 9.3% of our staff. The town did not cut 9.3% of their staff, and they are not facing cuts of this magnitude. So I think we're gonna have to be the ones to push. But, so I'd like to add that to the calendar.
So, yeah, so why don't we,
So is
So
there
my
a
action-
date that could work for,
in August?
yes? Because I will add that and bring it back and you can vote next meeting.
So I'm gonna send this email to Cesar Nizzolo and Chris Menard and Jennifer Warren. It says, "The school committee is interested in getting the positions from both the select board and FinCom on an override in November. We are working on our calendar and want to know."
I mean, we could do the 20th and the 27th right before school starts in August. I don't know when people usually go on vacation.
Don't we legally have to meet every 30 days?
No. Or you're not. We've always taken a break during the summer.
Usually we had just one like August meeting, I thought.
We can have meetings in August.
I thought. Are you telling us not till December? Is that?
Sounds good.
December.
Oh, sorry.
That's-
I think mid-August.
Yeah, I mean, the
All right,
13th
so
or the
On the
20th.
27th,
You do 27.
on the 27th, school is back in session.
So probably before that.
The
13th?
20th would be a week prior.
That's a special day.
I can't do the 20th.
The 20th. I can't
Let's do 27.
The 13th.
Okay, 27th.
I can do the 13th.
So how many more meetings do we have before the end of the school year? Do we meet once, we have in 2 weeks, and then we meet once
Yep.
more after
Yeah.
that? Oh.
I'll have to check this.
Let's
with
party
you, because I
on.
think that's my first day of training back to.
The
starting
27th?
off For DES.
Can we do the 13th?
I think I will be gone on the 13th.
We also
See,
don't.
this is why it's difficult to schedule
Yeah, in the
meetings
beginning
in
of
the summer.
Yeah, no,
It's
Yeah.
hard to get a quorum.
The 27th isn't a
Yeah,
no,
we'll
I
still
just need to
do
check and see
Yep. Okay.
what exactly my first day of school is.
But because I also think that's gonna be a discussion that takes a while.
Actually, I could.
Or not.
check right now.
And the other thing was, we have the proposed budget for FY '27 for January 21st. This year, we tried to do it January 8th, and that didn't work.
So the challenge, I can bring you a budget tomorrow for FY '27.
Yeah.
The challenge is, we don't get the governor's number, which is really often used as the baseline bottom
Yeah.
number that it would be, until early, mid-January.
It's the third Wednesday.
So I can bring you a budget.
Right.
I could tell you what level service would be. And that's just the total cost to keep everything
But
going
it's
that you have
the
going.
spending budget anyways, right?
Yeah, that's
And the
actually-
Funding part of it, we can,
Is the hard and fast. It would be interesting, before you leave, I know you still have about 6 weeks left.
Not even.
Not even, 4 weeks left?
Oh.
No, I mean,
don't extend it any longer.
no, I wonder if some of the stuff that we know is going to be increases next year, you could give us. So for example, I know the bus contract was already signed.
See,
The
this is-
teacher
this
contract
is
was
why
already signed, right? So
FY '27, I can give you a projection and tell you what is incorporated in the projection.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot more information
Mhm.
than I did
Last
a
year.
year ago, looking at FY '26. At that point, the teacher's contract was not settled, the para's contract was not settled. The biggest chunk of our budget is salary, and the biggest portion of our employees are in those two groups.
Right.
That's the bulk of our budget.
Yeah.
And we didn't have settled contracts. We do now. We also, a year ago, did not have a bus contract in place for '26, '27 beyond. We were in the final year of our transportation contract. So big important drivers
Yeah.
Are
were
settled.
missing.
Yeah, they're settled now.
But
So you could-
I do have that information now, and we can run some projections, and I can even project at health insurance increase at 15%.
So could you give us a projection for the next 2 years with those contracts settled?
I can, but probably not by the next meeting,
That's okay.
probably by the last one.
By the last one?
Yeah, I
Well,
think
I think that would be
that's
helpful to
fine.
us to start with.
It gives us some time to see where we think it's gonna land.
Yeah.
And
Evan,
then
can
come
we
up with
agree
that.
as a group, do we want her to include, so I don't know how, where you are, but there was some free cash that was allocated at town meeting that is not included in the traditional budget sense because that free cash is one-time funding. So we are gonna have some positions that are filled, my understanding.
My suggestion on that,
Yeah.
because the official budget,
Yeah,
right, that's what everybody's gonna look side by side, FY '26, FY
we
'27.
should do level services.
I would say level service of the budget,
Okay,
not including any of the free cash
the free cash
positions.
appropriations,
Oh, I
okay.
Because budget line comparison year to year,
It's gonna look,
Yes.
right,
Yeah.
it'll throw it all off.
Yeah,
Because
then we
it's
will
not
get
the
less
actual
money.
budget.
Because if we
Are the free
include,
cash positions
They're outside of the budget.
they're outside of,
yeah, so if-
entirely outside of the budget?
but it will be a conversation with the new superintendent about when we talk about level services, right? So that will be an interesting, we'll
Yes.
have to figure out because level services on the FY '26 to '27 will not actually include, you know, we made a lot of cuts this year that we are hoping if we do, personally, I am hoping, I mean, obviously the school committee has to decide that we would reincorporate some of those positions into an override next, if we're doing an override, you know, some of the cuts we had to make, we might rework in. But I think it would be good just to know, straight up, level services, next 2 years, what we're looking at for contract increases.
can I get people's
Yeah,
opinions on the following? We include in our budget a cost that we have no control over and we do not pay. It makes our budget look gigantic, when in fact, it is not big.
the health insurance.
And it's the health insurance. No other organization in town does their budget the same way.
They should.
And we did this a long time ago because in a land that will never reappear to us financially, there was a profit in the health insurance budget line item. But that will never happen again, and I am willing to bet that it doesn't happen again enough to say, we need to give this back to the entity that actually pays this bill. We are being penalized for a dumb decision made by our predecessors in how we account for money. We do not have anything to do with the healthcare, and yet we carry that burden in our budget. And so even if we have it in our budget, because that's the way the agreement works with town, I think we should break it out every single time to make it clear to the people in town, we do not pay this. This has nothing to do with us. We cannot negotiate this, and we cannot stop this. This is something that all the town employees negotiate on their own, independent of the school district.
So-
But our budget, our staffing levels
Yeah.
do affect how much we're paying in health insurance. And so my opinion is that every town department should carry their health
But
insurance.
we gotta compare
But
apples to apples, and we
I
don't
think
do that.
removing it, when we add in, if we say, okay, we're gonna add in 100 staff, we have to, the town has to pay for that insurance, and that is a consideration in hiring.
But what Tony is saying, the other departments don't have to consider it.
Right, they don't
They-
have, they don't
Just
get
because
penalized.
they're not doing budgeting that encompasses the total cost, doesn't mean that we shouldn't.
So what if we,
I don't
I
think we
don't know how
should
this works,
exclude
but
it,
I'm
but I think
wondering
we
if
should
an
do,
action item would be possibly one of us talking to Jen Warren about, again, I don't really know how this all works, but like to Jen Warren, what they used to do in her old town, right? And
which is not what we do here.
comparing, right, but and comparing what,
We do, every town has, every group has their own thing
Yeah.
outlined.
right, I just think maybe an action item on this, right, is to come up with a few different ideas of ways we could do it. And I mean, I'm happy to talk to Jen about that, but I also, this is not my expertise. I don't know if a finance person at the school would do that or whatever, just,
So, Tony, what you're saying is the health insurance budget is overinflated.
Our budget in general is overinflated compared to every other department in town.
So every other department in town has their budget and, you know, the salaries, so like.
Say $1 million,
Yes, so
right?
like,
And
yeah.
we're like 20 million.
So like the DPW would have, this is how much we're paying our employees. They don't carry in that budget the health insurance. That's in a separate health insurance line and the town's overall budget.
Yeah.
And it doesn't come out of the DPW's budget. So when they want to move someone, and this has happened, the senior center wants to move someone from part-time to full-time, they say, well, it's only gonna cost X amount, but it's actually not gonna only cost X amount because it's
Yeah,
also
benefits
going to
and
cost
Correct.
the health insurance, but that department doesn't have to consider it because it doesn't come out of their budget, so it's not a consideration. But the school department carries our health insurance in the budget, so if we say we're gonna add 20 staff, we have to carry the cost of the health insurance, which I think is how it should be done because that is an increased cost to the town, but it makes comparing town departments very difficult because certain people like to look at only the very simple numbers and say, okay, well, the town is $48 million and the schools spend $25 million, so 55% of my taxes are going to the schools. That's not fair.
That is also not true.
And it's not true because I guess, it's also not true because we get Chapter 70 money that comes into us meant for schools.
So that's.
But if you're comparing two departments against each other, like this one is 10% of the town budget and this one is 55% of the town budget, but it's not because this one doesn't hold their employee health insurance.
My guess is if you excluded the cost of health insurance from our budget, so that we looked like every other town, we would be under the 50% of the budget for the
It
town.
would probably save $3 or $4 million off the budget.
But it doesn't
But
actually
Jen-
save money. The
It doesn't
town
save
still
money,
has
but it
to
makes
spend
the
it.
comparisons
No, but it
fair.
makes the comparison
Right.
fair. The money's still gotta come out of the
Sure.
town.
Right.
Yeah,
But it's in the town, the employer is the town, not the school,
yes,
you know?
that's right.
And so they're holding the insurance
Right.
back there. So I agree with you that they would have to find a provision to pay for insurance for all their employees.
Right.
And the school committee or whoever's when we're making these budgets and we're saying, we're gonna pay our people, or the staff here, X amount, this is what we have, or we can afford another person, and then the town's saying, well, our health insurance budget is gonna be over, we gotta.
Right. I think one of the
I
things,
agree, the visual of it,
Is not even.
break it out. We can't take it out of our budget because of the agreement that we made, but break it out so that when people go to town meeting or they're voting on the override and they're saying, why is the school, like,
But we don't break it out, that's the finance committee who breaks.
Michael Ray
breaks it out.
Jeff,
That's
no,
not
no,
us.
no. This is not about the money, Laura. What I'm trying to say is have a visual that says, this is our budget without health insurance. And then say, based on agreement with the town, the school district carries health insurance in its budget, even though it has nothing to do with it. And this is our budget with health insurance. So that when we sell it to the voters, we need an override. We can say, when you compare apples to apples, the school district actually is getting less money than what the budget would indicate. Because again, we do not have any control over the costs of the healthcare. And by not highlighting that for people, every time we talk about the budget, we are essentially underselling what we need by $2 or $3 million, right? That's what we're doing. We're telling the town, we get $28 million.
So where do you
But
want to
we're
break
only
it out
doing,
of?
so like, for example, at the very end, say, our budget is $28 million. However, with costs going directly to the school, it's only $24 million. So that every time
No, I'm for that.
somebody
I also
sees
think
the
we
money.
should break out Chapter 70 and subtract Chapter 70 from there because.
Oh,
it's
that,
not-
that's a more complicated thing
So-
because they don't have to give it to us.
Again,
Do you remember this when they did not give us the
an
money?
action item. Can we ask Jen Warren what she used to do in her other towns? Because
Sure.
it would just be interesting to know. And
Yep.
who will do that?
So-
Me, you?
I will do that
Well,
Okay.
technically, we can't do action items that aren't
on the
like,
agenda, but. you
it's
know.
just, that's a thing we're gonna do. But like, it's not a vote we can take.
What do you mean?
In order for it to be an action item, it has to be on the agenda.
Okay.
which is.
Doesn't it apply to something we're talking about?
But like,
Budgets?
why, we don't need to.
Budgets is on
wait,
you.
hold on.
We don't need to vote on it.
We don't need to do it as an
It's
action.
not a-
No,
I'll
I'm
do
just
it.
saying action item because
Oh, you
I don't
need
wanna leave this meeting with this conversation not having an action item, I guess is
Okay.
what I'm
I
trying
will,
to.
without having a vote, I will
Yeah.
contact Jen Warren and get that in.
And just say, hey, what is in technical assistance? What do other towns do? Is there something we could do?
Yes, I will do that right now.
Ask.
All right.
And then I also want to keep in mind that this calendar, we have a new superintendent coming in who might do things differently.
Sure.
So, was gonna be my question, are we gonna have like a meet and greet with her? Can we, like, is she gonna start in July and we won't see her till September 3rd? That seems a little bit,
No, you are welcome to come into the office anytime.
yeah, okay, that's fine. I mean, I just feel like we should,
Yeah, which, we could just come or call and say, hey, we want to stop by and see you, or whatever.
Yep, but she'll start July 1st.
All right?
And the office will be located at Turkey Hill Elementary School.
oh, yes, you'll be Turkey Hill now, okay.
I think it was.
I mean, it's good news that
incredibly
she's been a
kind of you
superintendent.
Good.
To schedule the move from before you left. I think that is one of the, you didn't have to do that.
No, I guess I just thrive on,
You could have said, fine, July 1st is moving day, but you took that on, and I think that says a lot about you.
Okay, so
be
do we
nice
have
for
to,
everyone to be settled when they arrive first day on the job.
It's a nice thing to do.
that's kind of you.
It's, yeah, so, yeah, the school district is moving out of their offices into Turkey Hill Elementary because we can no longer stay in TCP. So, and then that was going to be a temporary move until town hall was built. But now that was defeated, so we don't know what we're gonna do long-term for offices, and we're just gonna cram people in a building they don't really fit in, that's not set up for it, and it's not ideal.
Mandy, I've sent an email to Jen Warren asking her that. So as soon as I get the answer, I will send it to Kate to distribute it.
Because she might say, this is an easy way to do it, and then the
Yes.
conversation is over.
We just lose every time we go in because we're essentially paying our bill and then paying
Yeah, no, I
the
get
guy next to us at the bar's bill.
Yeah.
We don't need to do that.
It's 8:30, we're 2 hours in.
All right, let's go.
We're getting there.
The next thing that we have on the agenda is old action, evaluation and audit reports.
So in your folder, you have a report on federal grant program monitoring, and you also have a summary of the special education program evaluation. Juliana Hanscom is here if you have any questions relative to the special education evaluation.
It's nice to see all those yeses, but why don't they give you a letter grade? It's a school. Like,
So that's actually Deb Bookas's
Okay.
Grants.
She's
Yes,
also on
that's
the
her
meeting
grant.
if you had questions.
But it's nice to see all those
Mhm.
yeses on there. So good job.
Does anyone have any questions?
This is basically, you just pulled up, you had to look through a cross-section of IEPs and,
Nope, this is the Title I.
Okay.
The Deb Bookus part is DESI, the department, had to, she had to pull together paperwork to show how she did things for the grants. And so she
So
met
there's two
compliance
different
in all of the,
reports.
in all of the
One on the
areas.
grants.
Yeah.
That's what the one with all the yeses.
okay,
I thought you were doing
The
the grant
one
monitoring.
for the special education program evaluation.
yeah,
Time out. DESI, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
yes, that's good.
Correct. It's the state agency that tells us what to do.
Okay,
So from a special ed standpoint, it's this
yep,
one right now that we're going over. And just to be very quick, so according to the regulations, I have to have special education programs evaluated every year. I've always chosen to have an outside person come in to do that, to kind of get that bird's eye view, to make sure that I'm not missing anything. So Sharon Fauscher comes in. She came in this year right before our DESI audit, where the state came in like they did for Deb Bookus and did her Title I grants. They came in to look at civil rights information and special education information. So Sharon Fauscher came in beforehand to look at all of our records that we were going to be submitting to the state, to make sure that everything was in compliance, or if we needed to add anything in or get anything additional that we could. She gave me some recommendations. Out of that, she came in for 2 days And it was very helpful to have those records all in place for DESI so that they could come in, and it made their job much easier. She also went over my procedures manual, which is this other document that is in your file. And basically, I mean, my procedures manual for the staff is 156 pages. It's really more of a how-to, right? And so any teacher coming into the district that's new can look at this procedures manual and be able to see, here's how we do annual evaluations in Lunenburg, here's how we do re-evals. I even have a first 2 weeks look for teachers. So she gave me some suggestions just on updating certain things, changing dates. So very minimal changes. And that's about it, unless you had any other questions. Yep.
Both for myself and for members new to the committee. Can you explain just very briefly the procedures used for determining when a student is given out-of-district placement?
So there's no one set of procedures, but what I like to do is, it's always through a team meeting. We will have numerous team meetings, and my philosophy has always been that I like to make sure that we have gone through every available program within the district in trying to meet those students' needs in the least restrictive environment, and that's LRE, that's another one you would hear for special education. If we cannot meet those needs in district, then I try to think creatively about how can we create those programs in district or those services for the students in district. But if there comes a time where I can't do that either, and it usually happens mostly for our really medically fragile students where they need nursing support, they need significant support for seizures or for wheelchairs, or, I mean, and even more so. Those are the type of students that we generally look for an out-of-district placement, so that their needs can be better met in those facilities. Keystone does a fantastic job with our most medically fragile students, so we are very lucky to have them as our collaborative that we utilize. But it really is a process, and in fact, even for next year, we are creating a new sub-separate program or offshooting to meet the needs of a small group of students that would otherwise we would have probably had to have placed. So it is a team process, but we really do try to investigate all of our options here and then what else we need to bring in place, which may be at a cost, but in the end, it's keeping the students in district, and we will probably be able to serve more students if we bring in more programs or more support.
And why is it better when students stay in the district?
Well, it's better because they not only get to be in there and stay in their community, but they get to usually develop more friendships than they would if they were at an out-of-district program. And just, there is that family support that like Keystone can provide for students who have that meet that medically fragile state. But for our students here, I truly believe that it's best to keep them here, and it's best to keep them in their community, and it's best not only for them, but it's also better for, I think, for their peers to be able to see that everyone has something to contribute in a classroom. Everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. I love the fact that some of the suggested edits were as simple as underline this. You did a good job. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda, if you don't have any questions, is the third read of the bus policy. The bus policy was recently amended to change language about the calculation of the 2-mile distance. The purpose of the bus policy is to generate funds. It is one of the very few levers the school district has as a means of generating funds. It was voted on by last school committee. It was a contentious point, and I think that it is fair to say that this is an absolute austerity measure, and we will look to end this as soon as humanly possible.
Yeah.
However,
Do you want me to read it?
yeah, one more update. When we proposed the bus policy, we included a sort of a safety valve as a waiver to get out. So for some unknown reason or some complex set of circumstances, you don't meet the criteria for a waiver or a partial waiver, you can apply for a waiver. And thus far, I think you said 73?
Yes.
There were 73 individuals who had applied for a waiver. Of those 73, all of them qualified as reduced or free lunch except for 3. And of those 3, how many got the waiver for financial reasons?
We're still reviewing.
Okay, so,
Does that mean that we now have 70 new students who qualify for free or reduced lunch because they filled out, or it was just people who applied for a waiver preemptively, not knowing? Okay. In case any member of the public is watching, if you even suspect you might qualify, please fill out the forms for free and reduced lunch, because you get benefits from it. We live in Massachusetts, it's very expensive to live here. You might be very surprised to find you do qualify for free or reduced lunch. The cutoff is not, it's very expensive to live in Massachusetts. And then I'm saying it selfishly because it helps the school when we have more people that the state classifies as lower income, and we get more aid for it. So it helps us and it helps you.
and we also use the free and reduced lunch standard as a benchmark for discounting all sorts of fees within the school district. So it helps there as well. All right, so,
So we're changing this one just because we had originally said geodesic, and it turns out the state has a
definition.
sort of, it's not in the law, but they do have a definition they use, which is portal to portal, meaning where the bus picks you up for school to where the bus drops you off for school, and by the commonly traveled route, so by street. So not geodesic, and we had to change that. So we already voted on this, but then we had to start over because it is school committee policy that it's our procedures that if we're changing a policy, the policy subcommittee brings it forward, and then we read it 3 times at 3 different meetings so that people have time to know it's coming.
All right, so, I'll just read it. Fiscal management and non-instructional operations 3,000, transportation 3,600, transportation bus fee policy 3601.1. As an austerity measure, the Lunenburg School Committee imposes a temporary fee on busing. This fee shall be reviewed by the school committee no less than once every year as part of the annual budget process to ensure that it is still necessary. This policy shall be interpreted and administered in accordance with all applicable provisions of Massachusetts general laws, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education regulations, and guidance. Students using district contracted busing shall pay a fee of $180 per year per student. Individuals with reduced lunch status shall pay $50 per year per student. Individuals with free lunch status shall not pay the transportation fee. Families with more than one child using district contracted buses shall pay $275, while reduced lunch status families shall pay $75. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 71, Section 68, students in 6th grade or lower who reside more than 2 miles away from the school they are entitled to attend, as measured portal to portal over commonly traveled routes, sidewalks or public ways, shall be entitled to district-provided transportation at no charge as defined by statute and regulation. Individuals may seek a waiver of the fee. The waiver must be in writing. Waivers shall be reviewed by the superintendent or their designee. That individual shall have sole discretion in granting such a waiver. If a waiver is denied, the party seeking the waiver shall have the right to appeal the determination to the full school committee. Applications for appeal shall be in writing. Determinations of appeal shall be in writing and issued without the need for a hearing. In order to prevail on an appeal, the party seeking the waiver must prove there was a material error in the determination by the superintendent or their designee. Determinations by the school committee shall be final. Payment shall be due upon registration for busing. Failure to pay in advance will result in children being denied transport to school. The list bus drivers are given at the start of school shall reflect payment. Do we have any comments?
We had only one inquiry about procedurally how things might work. We did have one parent, who I believe is on the meeting this evening as well, that you heard from previously relative to waivers for sidewalks. Anything, still nothing else that's come in through LPS.
I just want to say, I think the parent who made the objection about sidewalks is absolutely right. Unfortunately, that is a town issue and not a school committee issue, and I think that we should have better guidance.
We should, and if the town is not gonna fund schools enough that we have to charge students to take the bus, it would be nice if the town could give students safe places to walk.
All right, so this is an action item, so
Motion to approve the new bus policy.
is there a second?
Second.
All right, and all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Do we do roll call votes for policy changes?
We can.
No, I don't think we need, just asking.
All right, next item on the agenda is,
Curriculum office updates.
okay, curriculum. Next item on the agenda is finalized superintendent
Yeah, I was gonna
contract.
say.
Okay, so,
Excuse me, I was just wondering, you're passing the bus fee on to the town
no,
for the sidewalk thing? Because the town said that you guys were the ones that made up what people have to pay.
if you want to wait until public comment, or if we want to take a vote and do this public comment now,
Okay.
do,
I don't mind answering it now.
I make a motion to allow this comment to be heard out of order.
So second.
Okay, all in favor? All right. Okay, so if you could, I'm sorry, I can't see. If you want to state your name and your residence and then ask the question, we'll do our best to answer it.
Hi, my name is Justin Marcucci, I'm at 1147 Mass Ave. I put in the waiver for waiving that bus fee because there's no sidewalk. It's a safety issue. And the town's already related to contact the school because you guys are the ones that are emitting the fees.
Okay, that is all correct. I'm not sure. What's the question?
I was just wondering if you guys are making a decision on that waiver.
On your waiver or on the bus policy waiver?
On my waiver about within the 2 miles. and the
So-
sidewalk thing.
As the policy states, all waivers will go through the superintendent or their designee, and then if they make a determination that you're unhappy with, you can file an appeal in writing, and we would be happy to review the appeal if it's necessary.
Okay. Because I was just told by the superintendent to attend the meeting to find out what I would think that you guys would decide on this.
So the policy just passed. Whether or not an individual waiver would qualify under the policy that was just passed, first is reviewed by the superintendent or their designee pursuant to the policy. And then if that waiver is denied, then the person who filed the waiver can file an appeal in writing to the school committee, and we would review that using the standard of review listed in the bus policy for an error. So I wouldn't, without knowing what the grounds of the waiver are, we wouldn't be able to say one way or the other, and we would only do that if it was on appeal.
His grounds were that there weren't safe
Oh, okay,
sidewalks.
so I don't have to wait for the superintendent to make the decision on the waivers?
Yeah, I think that what the policy means is you have to go through the process outlined in the policy. And I wouldn't want to
Sounds good.
prejudice any determination by not having the actual request in front of us. So if you get if this is for anybody, not just you, but if anybody files a waiver and it's denied, you have pursuant to the policy the right to an appeal. The appeal needs to be filed in writing, and the standard of review for the appeal is listed in the bus policy. But
Sounds good.
I agree with you that the town should have better sidewalks.
That's not the town on a state road.
Whoever should provide sidewalks in your area should provide better sidewalks.
Right.
But we don't have control over that.
So I'll just wait and see what happens with the waiver.
Yep. Yep.
I'll send you guys that.
All right. Is there anything, does anybody else have a public comment about the busing policy?
I still don't like it.
All right. We'll move on. The next item on the agenda is the finalized superintendent contract. So, last Tuesday, Laura and I took time out of our day. We met with Dr. Fortuna in the Micro Creamery in Hudson.
That place is great.
It is wonderful. It was the first time I had ice cream there. I am lactose intolerant, so I never got ice cream because I was too nervous to order with a big line behind me. But since it was the middle of the day and there was no line, I got the ice cream I wanted to try. We came to a tentative agreement on terms. I then, prior to that meeting, I got a digital copy of the contract we used for Dr. Burnham. We incorporated the terms, which were length of contract, starting salary, and rate of increase, and we passed them on to the attorney on, I want to be, let's say Tuesday or Wednesday. I think it was Tuesday morning. No, it was Wednesday.
Yeah, we met Tuesday.
Yeah, it was Wednesday.
Morning. You sent
Wednesday
it off
morning.
to the attorney.
The attorney said that he would get them back to us. I said I wanted him to let me know if he could get them back to us by Monday. I think he got them back to us on Monday morning.
But we had a meeting on Thursday.
There was a meeting on Thursday, which I was unaware of. And the previous school committee, except for me, ratified the original version of Dr. Burnham's contract as modified for Dr. Fortuna. Then, this morning, the attorney notified me that the contract that was in our folder today was not the one he sent. Unfortunately, and I think both Laura and I had the same mistake, he had sent 3 different versions, and one of them was a red line that was not complete. So,
Yeah, the initial email made it look like it was very superficial changes, which had come after we had already ratified the contract on Thursday.
So-
And it made it look like it was minor changes, so that did not change, they weren't substantive. However,
they were major changes that went from a 5-page document to a 7-page document. When I got the call from the attorney this morning at 7:30, I logged on and I figured out what had happened and that the red line version was different in substantive ways. So I reached out to Liz to figure out what version was in the folder, and that's when I found out that the original version had already been signed on Thursday. We got the copy of it today. So I then reached back out to the attorney again today, and I told him, please stop working on your version. I don't want to spend money on you reformulating a version that we'd already accepted. And then I reached out to him again to ask him if the changes he made were so substantive as to need us to renegotiate, which I would really prefer not to do. I called him once at around somewhere between 1:30 and 2 o'clock, and then I called him right before the meeting, and I have not received a call back. So, I do not know what his opinion is on the revisions. However, the previous school committee and I just signed the old version of the contract that is exactly the same in language except for those 3 things I talked about and the name of the person involved as Dr. Burnham's contract.
and adding in
The
we added a
AASA
membership to the
membership. So that's the only other term.
National Superintendent's Association, which was, she said, $485 a year. We said, yes, we can do that, because that is typical.
So, I want the committee to be aware of the fact that the contract has been signed, but it is different than the one that the attorney got to us significantly after the time frame in which we needed it.
However, the one that was signed is the one that Tony and I presented to Dr. Fortuna and negotiated salary with based on that contract.
Yes,
So I feel strongly that we should not
I agree.
bring a new contract.
I will also note that I tried to get the attorney on Tuesday to give us real-time input, but he was not available until after 5?
This is our school committee attorney?
Yes.
So, I don't know what the committee wants to do about the contract. I have an idea about what I would like to do with the lawyer.
That's what it's for.
But that's not the action item now. I just want to know what the school committee would like to do with the contract.
So can I rephrase what you said to make sure I understand?
Yes.
So basically, there was a contract that was negotiated
Yes,
between you and the new superintendent. Everyone signed it and ratified it. The lawyer in the end said, maybe you should have changed X, Y, and Z. But the lawyer was slow and didn't get back to us in time.
And you asked the lawyer to look at it and give notes,
yes,
but instead it was
rewritten.
rewritten substantially.
Okay, so that's basically, so I believe, so I'm fine if you both think the contract is appropriate and that it was the same contract that Dr. Burnham, in substance, mostly the same thing Dr. Burnham has been operating under.
Just for the benefit of the newer members of the committee.
Yeah.
My contract was negotiated with the previous school committee in consultation with the school attorney.
Yeah,
So it's.
so attorney has looked at it,
Yes.
basically, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
The other thing is, just so
It
the
could be
committee.
full of misspellings, it's still a contract.
Right. Just so the committee is aware, prior to doing the negotiations, not only to get a digital copy of the original for Dr. Burnham, I also met with the assistant town manager and talked to her about terms of the town manager so that we could bring the contracts into closer parity with each other. So this was not something on Tuesday that we did haphazardly or casually. It was something that we did in lockstep. And the fact that we have had a delayed response means that there is confusion about what's going on, but I don't think it changes the bottom line, that the deal that we struck with the superintendent is a good one, and it's the one that we presented to her, and so to operate in good faith, I would suggest that we continue on with that contract, despite the fact that our attorney gave us essentially a new one after we signed the old one.
And
That's fine with me.
for background, we tried really hard so the superintendent and the town manager are the town's two highest paid employees and are the CEOs of each have half the budget. So we tried to make sure that they were in alignment with each other.
Yeah, that makes.
I think we signed a contract, we negotiated a deal based on the contract, let's just stick with the contract and then we're done.
Yeah, and so the committee members are aware, the contract, which is in your papers, is starting salary of $174,000, a 3-year term of a contract, and then an increase on an annual basis of 2.5%. The length and the percent increase is identical to the town managers, and the $174,000 starting salary is in recognition of the fact that she has credentials over and above what the town manager position has. I will point out, though, that it is only $9,000 over what the town manager has, even though she has a 4-year degree in post-education, postgraduate education.
And a lot of experience.
So, I think that the contract, based on what we see for other superintendents and the fact that she has less experience than our current superintendent, is a fair one. But I want to make sure that everybody is aware that we did a lot of work to try to make sure that we had the right document, and it was not until this morning that we realized that people thought there was a different document.
That was such a confusing phone call.
Laura handled my panic well.
So we don't have to vote on anything.
Nope.
It's just because it was so
That's great.
complicated.
No, I'm glad you
I
told us.
wanted to be
I'm not- I
fully
just-
disclosive and say, like, even after we knew we signed the wrong document, if the lawyer
It's the
told
right
us,
document.
I was willing to go back
Yeah.
and try to renegotiate if the committee felt it was reasonable. I really, truly believe that when you make a promise, you have to break your back to keep it.
Yeah.
And so we made her a promise.
Yeah, I mean, a deal's a deal.
Deal's a deal, that's right. All right.
Okay, sorry, now it's curriculum office updates. And we're passing over that?
Nope, you have in your packet a link to a video that is 8 minutes and 45 seconds
That's under 15 minutes.
that you can review, or if you have already reviewed and you have questions, Dr. Bookus is on the meeting. This is just some follow-up to prior conversations relative to the updated comprehensive health and physical education framework from the state.
I'm hoping someone from the state is the person who spelled Lunenburg wrong on the presentation.
Probably not.
That's all right. It's not the normal misspelling. Usually that second N gets left out. And it's Lunenburg.
Just for the edification of the committee, could you just, could you give me 2 minutes on how often this stuff happens with DESE? So this is DESE, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education requires us to look at our curriculum-specific categories.
Nope, they
Or-
actually update the standards.
They update
Only
the
days
standards.
ending in Y does DESE do so.
Yes, I know they do a lot. So they update the standards
They
and
update
then
the
we
standards.
just have to comply
If-
with the standards.
It's fairly typical to have these things occur roughly in a 10-year cycle.
Okay.
So they don't update all content area frameworks at the same time.
That's the problem.
They look at 1 or 2 areas,
Yeah.
they have teams that work on that, they revise and update the standards, and then they push them out to the districts to say, this is what you need to be teaching.
And then we
this
take
is
a
what
look.
we will be assessing if it's a subject matter that is assessed. So recently, there was a revision, and they understand that it takes a little bit of time when they push it out,
Mhm.
that districts need to spend a little time reviewing their own curriculum compared to the new standards, what the changes are, what changes we need to make to be aligned, and so on and so forth. So,
That's
again,
helpful, thank you. Just
Yep.
Can I add just a little bit to that, Dr. Brennan?
Quickly,
This is
yes.
Dr. Bookus, right?
Yeah.
Dr.
Hi.
Buss is the
Good
curriculum.
evening. Hi. It has been since 1999 since we've had a new comprehensive health and PE framework. So it's been 24 years in between the last iteration of the health and PE framework. Typically, the state DESE, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, will ask us to, within 3 to 5 years of pushing out the new framework, to have it fully implemented. And that's because, again, like Dr. Burnham mentioned, it does take a little while to unpack that framework. And while these came out in 2023, the spring, this was the first year that the department offered learning opportunities for us to learn more about the framework and for them to come forward with that information and resources to help districts do that work. So it can take quite a bit of time before it's fully implemented, but that is the recommendation.
thank you.
The next item on the agenda, if no one has any other questions, is the strategic action plan update, core values. I think given that we've just had 3 new members join and we have had very little substantive conversation, we should pass over this.
I would just say that if the committee members would take a look at that, it just summarizes the work that has been ongoing as part of the strategy for continuous improvement relative to a goal around revising and updating our core values. It's just informational for the benefit of the committee.
Okay.
And if you had any feedback on any of it, you could send it directly to me.
Perfect.
The next thing on the budget, or on the agenda item, is the task force charge. I think we should pass over this as well, because number one, it is exactly the same charge, including the end date, by the way, as the last budget task force, and we are not sure if they're gonna do one, so I don't wanna spend time on something that may or may not happen.
Okay, but the things that we're doing in relation to that is we are asking about the conversation for the possible fall override, and then also the superintendent in 2 meetings is gonna present to us about just a back of the envelope sort of
Fixed.
fixed,
The
cost for
known-
the next
the
2
known
years, level services funding.
Yep.
Okay.
Does anybody have any subcommittee reports, seeing as,
I don't think anybody,
no, nothing has
has
met since
anything
we
met
talked.
since
No
our last
meetings
meeting.
happened since we.
Yeah, no meetings have
We all
happened.
joined the meeting.
All right, do we have public comment from the public? Public comment from the committee.
Can I just ask, so the state budget, I know this is something, there's 2 areas I'm hoping we can talk about in 2 weeks or in 4 weeks. Number 1, there may be some money coming through the special ed circuit breaker for this current fiscal year, 26. There's a budget that's moving through the legislature. It's the millionaire's tax, there's a group, it's like a one-time thing that they're doing, a big bill, but it could be some money. There's definitely gonna be some special ed circuit breaker money in that, so I'd like to know sort of how that money comes to us. Does that need approval of town? And how we're gonna make sure that money gets to us and we can spend it. And then secondly, when the final budget is signed in July and there's more money in that, there's going to be more money in that than we are currently counting on. I think we wanna know sort of, by July we'll know the number, but even right now I could help you get some estimates of what that could be, and maybe Desi could help us, or DLS. And I think this committee needs to have a plan for that money before we break for the summer.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, we only get the money that's appropriated to us.
So
Right,
circuit
but
breaker
circuit
is
breaker
not
is different,
appropriated
right?
to
You're right,
this.
yeah.
That money does go to the
Straight.
town,
Okay.
but
We do
it's.
not necessarily get that money.
Wait, is the circuit breaker we don't necessarily get? I think we do.
No, circuit breaker we absolutely get. It goes to the town.
Yeah, but they give it right to us, we don't need to we don't need to vote
It's a
on it.
reimbursement.
Yes, so I would like to know what that number is, right? Because then and also when do we have to spend it by? Can we spend it in fiscal year 27? Or do we have to spend it by the end of
I think I'm gonna need some clarification if they're adding to the FY '25.
It's the FY 20, yeah, it's a one-time FY. And I have the big number, like the,
What is the?
So we couldn't use it for 26 then? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, no, we're in 25, you're right. So it's 25 money.
Sounds like an
Even our
excellent.
25 money though, we can roll over.
Okay, so that's good. So I just think there should be a number out there soon. Either the Superintendent's Association should know or DESI should know, because they're pegging it to a number, basically, like we're reimbursing whatever percentage, right? And that's gonna be a one-time payment. So I just think we need to make sure we know where that money is and what we're using it for.
School, sports buses.
Well, it has to.
It has to go to special ed, right?
Oh,
It has to
yeah.
go to special ed.
But also,
No?
is there money we're
Oh, no,
spending?
I'm selling Tony, no.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's your money.
It has to go to special education.
Sounds great.
But I'm sure
But there's gotta be
We'll use
needs
it.
in that, right?
we'll absolutely use it, unless they're gonna reimburse 120% of what we
Could it
spend.
be used towards a salary
Right.
for a special education teacher?
For those of you who followed all of the budget meetings from this past year, we have an additional 5 to 7 out-of-district placements that are hitting our budget next year, which is why some of my costs skyrocketed the way it did. So whatever monies we get for that circuit breaker reimbursement will help offset some of that.
Right, and then we'll have money to spend
Right.
on something.
How certain are we that it's 5 to 7?
Any.
I'm doing my best to negotiate what I can. What I can't negotiate are the move-ins. So we literally had somebody move in May 15th into town that we had to pick up transportation. So like it's literally, when you look at my spreadsheets on my end, I have columns that can change. Some of them have changed from like, I think one of them is like, here's 4.8, here's 4.9, here's 4.14, with different red zones, meaning new people coming in or out.
And this is the challenge of a school department budget. It is not static. I wish it could be. It would be so much easier if it could be. It can't be. We have to comply with the law. And when students with placement or services in their IEP, such as transportation, move into the district, we have to comply with what the service.
So I have an idea of where all that money's going.
Well, that's fine.
If it's 7,
So a part of my, okay, that's fine, but my transparency request is that we are able to sell back to the community that we have been doing a lot of advocacy at the state level, and that's more money, and I think we need a real number. That's another
Right. That works.
50 grand, that's another 100 grand, because when we go to the community in the fall, where I expect for a for an override, I would also like to say to them, we have also gotten $600,000 more from the state. So we are not just coming to you, right? We have done, because I do think that they're going to raise the per pupil. They already have.
Yeah.
And that.
And there's gonna be more,
That would have to be.
that's the money that has to be
Appropriate,
appropriated
Yeah,
next year.
So we're
but-
gonna need multiple actions at special town meeting in
Right,
November.
but this is one of the things, like, I wanna be on top of, on top of this money and where it's going, and even if that's where it has to go, that's fine, but we need to be transparent about that. Our advocacy to the state brought in an extra $70,000, we had to move, we had to put it towards X, that's fine.
I think it's gonna end up
Um,
more.
But, so there should be some numbers there, I mean, I can do a little research tomorrow, but I would think the Superintendent's Association would be the best place, honestly, to find that out,
They might not have the numbers yet either.
yeah. But they
Pace
should.
doesn't have the numbers yet either.
Well, it's not final yet, so that's it. So it's in conference committee, but they could give you an estimate, like it's between this and this, right? And then you'll know.
Yeah. This sounds like an excellent topic for future discussion, to go back to the agenda.
Yep.
So I
I
think we
told
should
you I was
put
gonna have a
that-
lot of questions.
That's fun.
Questions are good. It's a school building. That's what we're doing.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn at 9:08 PM.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
I'll go.